Mr. Mayor, testing? Okay. Mr. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. and the recording has begun. I would just note that we are experiencing some IT issues this morning, so the live stream and the cameras are not operational. That said, the audio and the presentations today are being captured through the recording and will be posted to the website as soon as possible. That said, you may begin your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Council, members of the town's SLT. Glad to be here today to discuss the budget. I see we do have quorum, so I'm going to call this special council meeting for November 17th, 2025 into session. And next up is the land recognition statement read by myself that we know Canada today.
This is a special meeting.
Okay, excellent. The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You are on item number 3, being disclosure of pecuniary interests.
Any council member have any pecuniary interest to disclose? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, please note.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the approval of the agenda, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Brunarski. Be it resolved that the agenda for the November 17th, 2025 special meeting of council be adopted as circulated. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor. Let's see. Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we begin, I understand you have some opening remarks.
Yes, I do, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. After looking over the draft budget, as I'm sure all members of council have, it is indeed I find it to be a very responsible budget. The increase is definitely something that I think this council and the staff can be proud of in the effort. I think going through it, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure that there's places where we can fine-tune things perhaps a little bit. I guess the thing that I think this council has got to be aware of as we do this exercise today, we made great strides in our debt situation in our town finances. I can't overstate that enough, that the last 6 years have been pretty great in the way this town, this council and the staff have wrestled with the debt, and we have it under control, but at no means has the animal been tamed. It was quite a shock to me to see in that budget that the per capita debt of the residents of Pelham at 1334 is double the average municipal debt in that same standard throughout the region. So that's something that we have to keep in mind going forward, and there is this budget and does that. We can't take our feet off the brakes. That's for sure. If we're going to remain responsible to the citizens. And one thing I really think that we have to focus on, and we, thanks to the CAO, we are taking steps. But one of the largest robbers of wealth for us in this town is the fact that we buy, and I call them toys, but it's expensive equipment for public works, and then we leave it sit outside. There is not one farmer in North America, anywhere, that would spend $1 million on a combine and then park it under a tree or in the middle of a parking lot. And that's basically what we're doing with our equipment. It's not $1 million, but it's not too many pieces of equipment to get to that level, whether it be snow plows, whatever you want to talk about. The fact that we leave them outside is horrendous. That I can't emphasize that enough. And if you look at our fire trucks, which spend their entire lives inside, when we sell those things 20 years later, because we're legislated to do that, they're in like new condition. Now, you can't compare the life of a fire truck, I understand, to that of a snowplow that's into salt and probably has a lot more hours to it. But just when you think about those two pieces of equipment, it is, and I'm very happy to see that the CAO has started negotiations that hopefully in this next term of council, whoever is running it will have this on their plate, and that it will be a problem that will be resolved. Other than that, I'm looking forward to today's discussions. I think this is, again, a very palatable budget for the residents. And yeah, again, I want to thank staff and everyone who took part in this to bring it in as at a very great tax increase. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to our first presentation this morning by the Treasurer, the Deputy Treasurer, and the Director of Public Works. And I would invite Mr. Siraj to the podium.
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining us this morning, and away you go. You have the floor.
If you could please just turn on the microphone before you begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the reminder. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So we're here today to present the draft 2026 capital and operating mayor's budgets. So the agenda for the capital presentation is as follows. We'll start by talking about the budget open house requests. Then we'll look at the capital budget summary, followed by a grant summary, and then we'll look at the capital budget by each department, a detailed list of projects that are being proposed for 26. And then we'll follow that up with some discussion on debentures and debt, as well as reserves and reserve funds. So similar to previous years, staff held a budget open house on October 1st, 2025, where town residents had the opportunity to come in and provide feedback and and participate in the budget process. This year, council heard from 3 different delegations during the budget open house, and the discussions are summarized in the next slide. So the first delegation that we heard from was high school students from Notre Dame College, and their ask was simply for council to consider making the scholarships that the town gives be resident-specific as opposed to being only for one specific school. And the reasoning was they're Pelham students, Pelham residents that attend other schools that are not able to utilize those scholarships. There was no additional cost that was specified for this request. And I believe this item will be addressed through the operating budget. So if there's any questions now or when we talk about the operating budget, we can have some discussion on that. The next request that we had was from the Active Transportation Committee. The request was for capital budget item for Spur Line Trail that goes through within the town of Pelham. And the request was also to name this trail after Rotarian Gail LaVale. So the total cost was $200,000 to $250,000. This is in addition to the $20,000 that council had approved in 2025, and the Rotary Club has already committed $25,000. Now, in terms of the decision regarding this item is included in the mayor's capital budget as a red circle project for 2026. And just as a refresher, red circle project meaning we would go out and search for a grant, and the project would only proceed if we are able to get that grant. And the last request was from Pelham Minor Baseball Association, and they were looking to convert the diamond at Centennial 3 to a full-size regulation diamond. And the reasoning was there's increased demand in the town for baseball, and currently we only have one full-size regulation-size diamond at Harold Black Park. So they wanted us to convert one more at Centennial Park. The cost is $40,000, and this item has also been included as a red circled item in the 2026 capital budget. So this is a snapshot of what we have included in the 2026 draft budget. So the starting point was about $22.9 million in capital requests for 56 projects. As you all know, we do a 10-year capital forecast every year, so that number, $22.9 million, was the 2026 proposed plan at the time when we did the 2025 budget. So naturally, that's our starting point, and each year we relook at the 10-year capital forecast to address new information, challenges, cost escalations, decreases, condition assessments of our assets, new grants, various other factors, and we come up with a revised 10-year capital plan each year. So that brought us to about 72 projects of $43.2 million in senior leadership team proposed projects that made it into the draft mayor's budget. This ask is a little bit more, well, twice as much roughly than some of the previous years. So even the starting point you can see was 22.9, and in the past few years we are approving approximately 15 to 20 million a year in capital spending. And the reason for this significant increase is because town was able to secure some long-term large grants, and you've got that in front of you there. So out of the 43.2 million, we've got 1.7 million, or 8 projects, red circle, which are pending grants. So these are not grants that are approved. But the bigger pie is the 19.3 million in approved grants, which the 11 projects are utilizing. Just a quick recap on the capital budget. So first we assess what capital needs are there in the 10-year forecast. And I've outlined here the main funding sources that we have to fund those capital projects. So reserve and reserve funds are monies that are being set aside from the operating budget to fund future capital needs. Development charges are monies that we collect from developers, and it's set aside in a reserve fund, and these funds are to be utilized for any growth-related capital requirements. Grants, town has done a great job in securing a lot of big and small grants, both for operating and for capital. So anytime we have a project that meets a criteria, we look for grants, and if we are successful in receiving that grant, that relieves some pressure from some of the other funding sources, namely the reserves and reserve funds. And the last funding source is debentures. So if there is an important project or a strategic project that we need and we don't necessarily have the funds for it and there are no grants available, we do often utilize debenture funding as well. So the 10-year well, I guess not the 10-year. This is a 2026 capital project summary by each department. So this is broken down into 2 different funds. So these are the tax-supported infrastructure projects, totaling $33.7 million, and you can see they're broken down by various different departments. The 2 I will quickly highlight are the biggest ones. The first one being facilities for roughly $10.5 million, and that's because one of the main projects in 2026 is the rehabilitation of Fire Station 1, which is approximately $8 million out of the 10.5. The other one being 2 rows down, $18.6 million for roads. As I mentioned, we did receive some significant grants this year. So the grant is the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. That will allow us to do a lot of major infrastructure projects ahead, or they were initially deferred. Now we're able to pull them ahead. So as you can see, out of the 18.6, about 11.9 of that is being funded from various grants. And I should also mention for these projects, because of the grant and the timelines, we are requiring approval for all these projects in 2026, but they will all not be delivered in 2026 because there could be, there's obviously capacity constraints for us to be able to deliver all that capital in 1 year. The grant does allow us to complete projects until 2029, March 2029. So the Director of Public Works has a plan of when these projects will be completed in sequence in collaboration with the region, timeline, and all those other features, but we do need the approval in 2026 to proceed with the grant. And the $9.5 million total request is for the water and wastewater funded infrastructure. Again, out of the 9.5, $6.5 million is coming from the the grant that we've received. So the total request, like I said, more than previous years, 43.2. A lot of it is grant funded, and a lot of it will, we're getting approval in 26. The work will continue to happen in 27 and 28. So looking at the grants, first we're looking at the approved grants. The first one is the outdoor pool rehab. This is a grant that we received a few years ago. There was a report to council a few weeks ago in October that outlined some options for us to rehab the pool, and the option that was chosen by council has been put into the forecast. The next one is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, or the OSIF grant. I'm happy to report that the town was able to get an extra $80,000 in OSIF funding this year as compared to last year. So we're utilizing the full $900,000 to do the road rehab program. The next one on the list is the Canada Community Building Fund, or Benefits Fund. That's the former federal gas tax. This is a long-term grant, and we know the contribution for the next number of years. So we're utilizing it to one of the eligible project categories. And the remaining projects on the list are the Housing Enabling Water Assistance Fund. So that's the big $16.9 million grant that we received to complete all these infrastructure projects. And on this slide, we have the total projects, 1.7 million in grants that we've applied for, so we're waiting to hear back. So you've got different funding sources, different funders, such as the Rural Ontario Development Grant, as well as the Active Transportation Fund. I do want to point your attention to the second project from the bottom on the list, East Fonthill Parkland Development. That's listed there for $1 million. At the time when we were preparing the budget documentation, we did not know the outcome of the grant, but unfortunately since then we've heard that we're not going to be getting that grant. And there actually is a report with council that's going in 2 days that outlines some options of around how to fund that project. So essentially the report is proposing, I'll briefly summarize it. It's proposing that we do this project in 2027 as we're doing the design in 2026, and we fund the project with parkland dedication as well as Parks Reserve. And we're pushing out 2 other projects that were in the forecast to be funded from parkland dedication. And we're pushing them out to future years, and we're going to look for grants because if we want to fund that, that's the way we do that. So this slide here shows the 10-year snapshot of the current forecast. Again, this is at a point in time. This forecast will probably look different when we're here this time next year. But as of right now, you can see the total ask over the next 10 years is about $151 million, which if you do a straight average is about $50 million a year. That's for the total capital plan. And then breaking it down by the tax and the water, if you look at the tax portion only, it's about 2/3 of that one, just a little over 2/3 is for the tax-supported infrastructure. So $116 million over the 10 years is for the tax-supported infrastructure, and $34 million is for the water and wastewater supported infrastructure. So over the next few slides, we'll look at the proposed projects by each department for the 2026 budget year. And we're not going to go through the projects in detail, but I'll stop at each slide and give it a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, we can talk about those projects. So the first department we're looking at is corporate services. There are a total of 8 projects that are being proposed for approval in 2026, and they total $339,000, and they're all being funded from town's reserves. So if there's any questions on any of these projects.
Council, any questions on the on this series? Not seeing any.
Okay. Next, we have the fire and bylaw services, where we have 5 projects proposed for $350,000, and they're all being funded from town reserves.
Question.
Sure.
So, Chief, you know this council is very supportive of most of your ask. Thank you. So the bottom one, I'll tell you honest truth, with the incident support trailer, that's $70,000. Could you explain that further? I guess again, as I went through some of this, I just sometimes wonder if we're not getting into wants as opposed to needs. And not just your department, but I thought I sensed that maybe in one or two other places. But I guess what I'm thinking and realize we are growing, so if we're growing, perhaps, unfortunately, I guess that calls for more house fires, unfortunately. So, yeah, explain this incident support trailer and how you arrived at this need, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'd start by saying that the department has become more diverse in the last 3 or 4 years than it's ever been. We have quite a number of people to accommodate, and if I could say it bluntly, peeing on somebody's front lawn is no longer acceptable. So we have, this trailer would have a bathroom, a shower, a little kitchenette, it would be air conditioned, so a place to rehab. So if it's extremely hot in the summertime, or if it's extremely cold in the wintertime, we have a place for our firefighters to rehab or to go to the washroom during an incident. So we're on the scene. We have no support at all unless we call in mutual aid. This solution, Lincoln currently has a incident support vehicle. It's actually a truck, and they paid almost $700,000 for it. For the same thing, we can make this work with a trailer. We'll just pull it with another vehicle. So I think it's essential to support any of our people during an emergency scene when we're off site.
So where I have difficulty is that I'm afraid this year we come for the trailer, and next year we come for the truck. How are you going to, can you explain to me do we have the trucks already? How are you going to get the trailer to and from an incident as such?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start with Service Vehicle 2. The vehicle that we currently have in service is over 20 years old, and it's not capable. So that vehicle, to ask for that Service Vehicle 2 would be the vehicle that would tow the trailer.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, so the Service Vehicle 2 and the trailer are both new this year.
Okay.
And further to that, the training vehicle, we don't have a training vehicle right now. We had to take it off the road because that's over 20 years old, and it's no longer roadworthy. So we're sharing a vehicle right now between two departments.
Okay. And then, I don't know if you keep track of this data. The average house fire, and I take it that's what most of your calls are for, your average call would be 4, 5 hours? Or what would you, and maybe I'm wrong on that, what would you guesstimate? You've been in the business quite a few years.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
and I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up on that.
that's fine. No, it's good. These are all good questions, and it's so when it comes to an incident length, the majority of our calls are under an hour, but it's the calls that are over an hour and a half, 2 hours. We go to an MVC, of motor vehicle collision. We could be out on the highway for a couple hours waiting for police or whatever to clear us. We could be at a hazmat call. We could be at, it's just not house fires. It could be at incidents. We could be at an incident where we're sitting waiting for a coroner to show up for 4 hours. Okay. So this support unit would be, I would say, anything over an hour, then we would take it, and so it would be available to.
Okay, and you would store it At which, at one or?
Station 2.
Okay, you got more room there, I take it, on the others? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks, Chief. Any other questions? Of course, Council Nesnick.
Yeah, thank you. So just through you, Mr. Mayor, while we're on this project or this topic, can you explain what a training vehicle is and why a training vehicle would be needed at this point? Thank you. Or if you have one, or it's a new idea?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did have a training vehicle. It's for the training officer. Uses it to go to and from training, to bring equipment back and forth. He uses it on a daily basis. We've had the training vehicle we did have, again, was over 20 years old. It has been the training vehicle for quite a few years, but it is not roadworthy. It's been taken off the road by the mechanic. So we don't have it currently right now. So this is a replacement for that.
Yeah, that good, Councillor?
Yes, thank you. I was envisioning something other than just like a vehicle that's used by a person to train and go to training sessions. I was thinking it was an actual vehicle that you used in training. Never mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, just to carry on that question. So the Service Vehicle 2, you mentioned that that would be used to tow the incident support trailer. So the training vehicle wouldn't necessarily be in use during an active call. And so could that vehicle be used to tow the support trailer, eliminating the need for one of those vehicles?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, logistically, no. The Service 2 and the support unit would be at Station 2. So again, they're unmanned stations, so we have to page people out. So Training 1 is at Station 1. So if we had to get the incident support trailer, we'd have to page a second station out for someone to go get that vehicle, then drive to 2 and pick it up and take it to the scene. And the Service Vehicle 2 is not only to pull the trailer, it's a vehicle for each station has a service vehicle that we use to transport people around, take people to and from scenes, go to the hospital to pick up a firefighter that was in the back of an EMS unit. It's used for training. It's used for people to go to courses. They're basically all around service vehicles. So Station 3 has one. Station 2 did have one, and Station 1. So that's what we call them, service vehicles. We need to put a name on them for the dispatch for us to identify the units, but they're a kind of all-purpose vehicle.
Okay. And the incident support trailer wouldn't necessarily be called out until you are sometime into the call.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, depends on the nature of the call that comes in. If we get something that comes across that's we know it's going to be large, like a structure fire, or it could be an MVC that multi-casualty or whatever that we know we're going to be ahead of time, then we would call it. We would ask them to dispatch it right away. It's not only another use for the incident support trailer, because it's going to be. It will, if it's approved, it will have quite a bit of messaging on it and fire prevention messaging, and we'll use it at public events. We would be taken down to the MCC when they have some of their events. So it'll be a multi-use vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions? Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. What do you anticipate the lifespan of the support trailer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It'll outlive me. It's not saying a lot.
But I guess my question, do you anticipate 20 years? Like
At least. It's not going to be going very far. I mean, Pelham is only 11 kilometers by 12 kilometers wide and long. All right, so we don't put a lot of miles on our vehicles. And for the amount of times we would use it, I would say it would far exceed 20 years.
And then a follow-up to it, is it regulated by provincial standards such that it would have to be replaced in 20 years? Or is this something that's a piece of equipment outside that, such that if it lasted for 30 years, you could still function with it rather than replacing it?
Correct, through Mr. Mayor. So there are only vehicles that are regulated under FUS, the fire underwriters, our frontline trucks, like our pumps, our rescue. The aerial's not regulated, so our aerial's going to be 25 years old. It's going to be going, I'm probably going to stretch it out maybe 30, 35 years because of the cost of them, and it's a good vehicle still. So yeah, trailers, our RTV, a few of our other pieces of equipment, they're not regulated. So as long as they're roadworthy, we could have them for extended periods of time.
And one last question. Did I hear you right, service vehicle 2 is to replace the fact of a vehicle that's no longer, or has outlived its lifespan, or it's
Yeah, our current service vehicle 2 is it's over 20 years old. And they're they're not repairable. They're rusting out. They're just end of life.
Okay, that's fine. I guess I wanted to clarify because it's not so much a new ask as it is a replacement ask of something in there. So, no, that's fine. I was just looking at lifespans of things and saying, if it's potentially a 25, 30-year investment, it's not overly expensive when you really look in the grand scheme of things. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions on this, on these items? Not seeing any. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, so the next few departments are within Public Works, and I'll invite the Director of Public Works to come speak to those.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is one of my favorite times of the year when I get to speak to you about capital budgets, and we've got a lot to talk about today. So I've also have with me, because there's a little bit of overlap with respect to facilities and parks, so if there's any, when those projects do come up, we have the RCW department here also to speak on those particular projects for you. And I'll try to get through this fairly quickly because there's a lot of material, but like in the past years, I've tried to highlight some of the important projects. So I'm not going to touch on every one of these projects, and if there's any questions that council has with the individual projects, we can speak to those. And maybe it's best if I just go through and highlight the ones I'm going to talk about, present to you with more detail, and then we can come back to this spreadsheet as well. And if there's any other questions on projects, we can answer them at that time. So the first one is the fire station. We talked about that already. Very large facility project. Replace current Station 1. It's about 13,000 square feet. It will have 2 drive-through bays, as well as the 3 other bays, so a total of 5. It's going to operate as our EOC still, so it has to be post-disaster building. The estimated project budget on this is about $8 million. We are in the design phase on this project right now. We are currently working with the architect. We hope to have the design completed within the next month and be able to go to tender on this. So we've also pre-qualified contractors. We've gone through that process. So pending council's approval on budget, we are ready to go to tender on this one. We expect that tenders will close, if approved, sometime in early January, sometime after Christmas. And we'll be able to do a quick award on that and get going on construction. Is there any questions with respect to the fire station specifically? I think that project's we've talked about that quite a bit. So that's our largest facilities project. The other project is the outdoor pool rehabilitation. So this is a project that's going to be led by RCW with the assistance of Public Works facility staff. Again, this project is, council is well aware of this project. The estimated project costs now are $1.25 million, and it's rehabilitation, rather than a replacement of the pool. Are there any questions with the pool project?
My memory's a little fuzzy because I kept thinking that the pool project, if I remember, was $2 million, and you've got it listed at 1.25, and I'm just trying to figure out where the change has happened to go from that, which we heard before, because there's a great debate of building a new pool or rehabilitating at 2 million versus spending 6 to 7 or 8 million. So can you clarify that somehow?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I will ask Ms. Van Ravenways to come up and give some more details on the actual scope of work for the rehabilitation.
Good morning. Yes, so as you are aware, we had a full report a couple months ago, and the stage that we're at, the estimated project for the rehabilitation of the pool is 1.25. We initially had a grant for $2 million, in which we have applied to the federal and provincial parties to still make use of those funds at Marlene Stewart Street Park, and specifically in different areas, accessibility, trails, parking, lighting, and so forth. And we have submitted an amendment to our grant application, and at that time, we're still waiting for a response. So at this time, it is still at 1.25 million, and we will, perhaps Teresa would also like to comment on it if she wishes.
Director of Finance?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously our goal is to maximize the grant, and that's what we're going to be doing. So within the budget, we have the portion that pertains to the town, what the town has to contribute from the reserves, and the rest will come from the grants. So it'll all balance out.
Okay. Councillor Kurt?
I'm still coming back to, my brain stuck at $2 million, and that's what we were presented, but I see 1.25. So I'm trying to find I'm missing something somehow. I apologize for that. I thought the project was going to be 2 million so that we could maximize. I know it had to go back to the grant provider to try and maximize the amount rather than turning money back. That was a big concern of people, but I just wasn't sure what did my brain assimilate for the extra $750,000? If what you're telling me, that's not part of the pool rehab then?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is part of Marlene Stewart Street Park rehab, which includes a portion of the pool. So 1.25 was the estimated value of the renovation to upgrade the pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
On top of that, there are other accessibilities, the lighting, the accessible, walkways, the pathways, and so forth.
Use up the remainder of the
It's
To use up the remainder of the $2 million.
Can I assume in our revised submission that, as I said, anything that was related to the pool was going to be added to the price of the pool rehab? So in theory, it would be above and beyond 1.25.
Correct.
Okay,
Absolutely.
now we're on the same page.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Not seeing any.
Okay, thank you. So that was the facilities project, and I'll throw this spreadsheet back up again if there are any questions with respect to any of the other project listed here.
Councillor Hildebrand?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of comments. With regards to LED lighting, there was a seminar put on by AMO and LAS with regard to conversion of lights to LEDs, and there was grants available, so that, in my view, should be looked at, any of those lighting conversions. The other project there is the FAC 0626, the septic replacement for $100,000. I'd like to speak on that just for a second. And the fact is, I was involved with 2 septic systems on Poth Street in the last couple of years, and they're all engineered systems. When you look at the size of those engineered systems for single residence, it's huge. You look at the property there for the old Pelham Town Hall, I don't know how it's even possible to think you can get a new septic system in there. So that being said, obviously I agree that you need to do some engineering work ahead of time to be ready for something. But other than putting in a holding tank, I don't know what's even possible on that property. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, I share Councilor Hildebrand's feelings on that old town hall. It does seem far-fetched that we're going to run tiles in there as opposed to, and for the use of that, I don't know if a holding tank wouldn't be the right option anyway. Any comments on that, Jason, on the septic?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is another one of those projects where we're in partnership with the rec department, and I know that their staff have done some initial work on what system would work there, so I'll pass this one over to Vicky.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The 2025 budget had the assessment of the septic system in it, and that's the process that we're at right now. The engineers are reviewing the current septic system options and so forth. There are assessments that are being done currently, and as soon as we receive the final report, you will also receive a report from staff regarding, and we will go from there. I would imagine that the $100,000 is a holding place until we receive the options that are possible in that area. It is a public building, so it's a little bit different than a household. And we hope to have the report within the next couple of months. And we will reporting back to council for future assessment.
Thank you. Councilor Hildebrand, you still have the floor?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Wink?
So this is an item that we've been batting around for 2 terms of council. And, you know, at some point in time, we've got to get it fixed. I look at this as Mrs. Van Ravensway was saying, that this is a placeholder. The $100,000 is a placeholder. We need something there in our budget so we can do it and get this issue resolved once and for all.
Thanks, Councilor. It could indeed be a retirement project.
What do you say?
Anyway, thank you. We look forward to that report then. And while on the subject of the Old Town Hall, it is great to see the usage that building is getting. And obviously, sooner or later, as Councilor Wink says, it is a problem that the sooner the better. Thank you for that. Any other questions on this subject? Councilor Kerr?
Not specifically to a septic system, though. I always think of the classic line, you either have to do something or get off the pot. And so-
Thank you.
The trailer will help you.
Oh, the trailer. Yes, we can use a trailer.
We have a trailer.
My question actually is just, even though it's a very minor item, is a $30,000 allocation for park signage. What park signage? Because I know we redid Fenwick and Ridgeville and all these other ones, but what additional signage is gets embedded in this, I guess?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was an initial project that started all of the replacement of the park signage. Public Works was involved in that, and it's basically completing all that signage, the Steve Barr Trail signs, the Nemi Trail, the Marlene Stewart Street Trail, park. Yeah, it's continuation.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any other questions on these items? Not seeing any. Please continue, Jason.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the roads budget, that's the largest capital budget line item that's part of our portfolio. This year, it's basically doubled what we normally try to do, and Usama touched on the reasons for that, because there are some major projects that are in this budget that are part of the large housing system, housing enabling servicing water systems fund. It's a long one. But anyway, so we were successful in getting that grant, and as a result of that, we've got to have these 4 projects. There's 4 projects in total. 3 of them are listed under the roads. They have to be all completed by March of 2029. So some of these projects will be taking place almost immediately, pending council's approval. Some will be phased in over the next 3 years. But here's a list of our projects. I'll get into some of the details on the larger ones. Again, most of our standard capital programs that we have, our patching program, our road rehab program, those numbers have stayed consistent from last year. So we have that budget again for 2026. And then you see some projects in here with respect to stormwater, the CLI ECA requirements. So we combined a couple projects that we've had as capital works, so into one complete project now, which takes care of all of our CLI ECA requirements. There is a requirement to perform a bridge and culvert appraisal. We're legislated to do that every 2 years. So that project's in here as well. And then we have also included an asset management plan update. So I'm going to just go through quickly some of the bigger projects, and then we can come back, and if there's any other questions, we can deal with those at that time. So the first one's Merritt Road. This is a complete urbanization of Merritt Road from Pelham Street to Rice Road. This is a project that was included as part of that grant. It's a large project, it's about $8.5 million. It'll include basically a full urbanization of that whole section of roadway between Pelham and Line. Again, we haven't gone into the design phase of this yet, but that will most likely include the removal of the roadside ditches. Right now it's a semi-urban cross-section to include a full urbanized cross-section with storm sewers, curbs, gutters, sidewalks. And then from Line Avenue to Rice Road will, again, be an urbanized section, probably look similar to what we've done on Pelham Street, south of the downtown area, which would include, again, curb and gutter. It'll include possibly a sidewalk on the south side. We're looking at including a multi-use path on the north side to basically come in line with what the region has proposed for their extension from Rice Road to Cataract. Again, this is a project that is part of the grant. Council already has approved some funds to do some preliminary engineering work, which we're currently undertaking now. Following the completion of that assignment, we look at entering into either a design-build contract and delivering the project through that delivery model early next spring, or depending on where the preliminary engineering work goes, they may recommend that we go with a traditional design bid build, but we are leaning towards a design build delivery model for this project specifically because of the tight timelines required to complete and turn around this job. So my guess is construction on this would not probably start until 2027, which, depending on which way we go, if we do design build, they may be able to start on this earlier than 27, but we're looking at probably a 2-year complete construction project for this work. Any questions on Merritt? Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Bernarski.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know it is a separate line item itself for RD 1426 traffic calming, but does a project like this and using the grant funding that we have, does that already have traffic calming measures built into it, or is that still something that is separate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the traffic calming line item is specifically a small capital account that we can draw from to do speed cushions, that type of thing, so we can implement various traffic calming measures on existing roads. Whenever we do a major capital project, which includes a full reconstruction, we always look at accommodating basically all users meeting AODA requirements, as well as doing any type of traffic calming and building that into the construction value of the project. So it would, to answer your question, any traffic calming measures we do for Merritt Road will be built into the $8.5 million.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? We're just talking Merritt Road right now.
Sure, yeah.
Keep it down?
Yeah.
Councillor Nesbitt? No, go ahead.
Late on the head turn.
Yeah, that's great. That's what we're here for.
Thanks. Just through you, Mr. Mayor, so just a quick question. I know there is the construction up in towards the north of Merritt Road going on, and the big trucks are going to be using Merritt Road in and out of there. So sounds like your timing for the project will work out, because you don't want to put a brand-new, beautiful road in there and then have those heavy trucks in there digging and ruining up the road due to their weight in and out. So, but it sounds like your timing's going to be just perfect for it, right?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the timing should work out very well with respect to the other projects that are happening in the area. And when we design a project like this, we'll do our geotechnical engineering work. We'll build the road to support heavier volumes of traffic.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Not seeing any other questions. Back to Jason.
Okay. Station Street urbanization. It's a $7.1 million project. Again, it's a full urbanization from Port Robinson Road to Highway 20. This is a project that's been contemplated in the capital budget for some time now. The water main has already been completed. And some of these projects, when we step through the wastewater and water, because there's a water and a wastewater component to these projects, we can move through those fairly quickly when we get to the water and wastewater. But I like to address them in the roads section, because that's what everybody sees, right? So that's what you see. So with Station Street, full urbanization, it'll include new storm sewers, sidewalks, curb and gutter. Again, this project is designed to have a multi-use trail on the west side of Station Street, all the way from Port Robinson Road, where it connects into the existing Steve Bauer Trail, up to Highway 20, again, connecting to the Steve Bauer Trail to the north. This project is basically sitting at about 95% complete on the design. So again, we can move on this one very quickly, and it is anticipated, if we get council's approval, that this project will go to tender probably sometime before Christmas, and we'll be able to start in early January. Is there any questions with respect to
Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I was at the open house, so I see where it includes storm sewer along Station Street, Summerside, Norgate. It provide optimal drainage for Camborough, College, and Emmett. So those are we're getting ready for future things. But when I was there, they also explained that it also would include Churchill. We're talking about coming down the hill, across South Pelham, Emmett College, and out to Station. Am I correct in that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So again, Public Works staff have brought reports to council with respect to the plans. Station Street is ultimately leads to the stormwater outlet for not only Station Street, but also College and Emmett. We also, when we did the design work for Camborough Road reconstruction between Hay Street and, basically Highway 20, we realized we didn't have a good storm outlet from Hay Street to Churchill. So you're correct. Eventually, that stormwater that gets collected on Camborough Road will be brought down Churchill to a storm sewer connection at Pelham Road, which will tie into College Street, down to Station Street, and then to the outlet. So
thank you.
There's a method to the madness.
To our madness.
I guess the question that I would like is, so that outlet, is that going to go south to that drain and then go to the canal, or is that going to go north and end up in the creek, the 12 Mile Creek?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the drainage does not go to the 12 Mile Creek. It goes to the stormwater channel that runs through East Vaughan Hill and then exits down to Rice Road.
Beauty. Thank you. On behalf of the fish, thank you. Go ahead, please, sir.
Okay. College and Emmett, so we've talked about this. Again, this is a project that we've started the design work on. So we're in the initial phases of this project. It's about a $5 million project. It'll see the full urbanization of College and Emmett, and you can see that off of College, there's a section that's highlighted that leads up to Churchill. So that's just what we spoke about, is the storm sewer connection to tie in the roads on the upper side of the hill there and have a stormwater outlet for those areas. So this project is in design. 2026 will probably be mostly design work on this. We will have open house meetings as well on these two streets. And we would look to go to tender on this project in 2026. We have to have Station Street at least substantially complete, because that's going to be receiving the stormwater from those areas. So Station Street will have to advance ahead of these two projects. But again, this is part of the grant that we've got to do the capital works. And so we'd anticipate that 2026 would be mostly design, and that we would go to tender on this in 2027.
Any questions? I guess I would just like to make the comment that it's amazing what $16 million grant. I can't believe the amount of work that we're going to be doing on these streets in the next 3 or 4 years. It's pretty incredible, that's for sure. And as you say, to do the engineering and get the tenders out in itself is no doubt keeping everyone busy. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I touched on our road-based surface repair program. Again, we have an annual budget of $300,000. That usually gets us about 3,000 square meters of patching. This is a typical example of what you would see under that program. And our road rehabilitation program, we've got a budget of $1.25 million. That usually gets us about 8 kilometers of road a year completed. Now, we've been focusing on the rural program for many years now. It's anticipated that that'll continue in 2026, that the dollars will be spent on rehabilitating those rural roads. We've got a lot of hard surface rural roads that have seen the end of their life, and they're all starting to fail around the same time. So we have been, through council's commitment to spending money on this program, we've been able to complete rehabilitations of quite a number of the rural roads. We try to use different technologies and recycling techniques to try to extend the tax dollar as far as we can in doing this work. And our team's done great work on doing that. So I don't have the list of candidates yet. We still work on that. And one of those capital projects that we listed in the roads spreadsheet was the pavement condition study that we complete every 3 years. So we plan on doing that project very early in 26, pending council's approval, and that'll help guide us with respect to the road candidates for this program for this year.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Kerr.
Yes, under the road rehabilitation, have you created a hierarchy of roads for to be addressed with this? I guess where I'm looking at in terms of which roads, and only because I'll throw on my airport commission hat, and that River Road with its challenges that are ongoing between Church Street and the entry to the airport, since the region has completely redone the road to the east side of the airport. And we've done Cream Street all the way down. We've resurfaced it from Weber Road right down to River Road. So I'm just wondering whether there's something, I just wonder if that's in the hierarchy of projects.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. I think our last pavement condition study was completed 3 years ago. So that has been a document, and that's basically we use as a guide to formulate our capital plan. Again, things change year to year. We also do roadside inspections. We get together with our engineering group. Last year, we actually included our roads operators in a discussion to bring them into the fold, to let them have some input on where they're spending the majority of their resources and time in patching roads and what their assessment is of the road. So yes, we use the PCI study to basically formulate a plan, but that does change year to year depending on how the condition of the road is. And again, the pavement condition study we undertake in '26 will again help guide us over the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Any other questions? If I may, living in the rural part of the town, I can honestly say that the work that we've done on the rural roads has been outstanding, and now we actually have to go out and look for a pothole now. So it's and I know the rural residents really appreciate the money that the town has spent in the north and the south part of the town. It is outstanding, the roads that, yes, there are roads to go, but boy, it's quite noticeable, the improvements that are there. Thank you.
Stormwater facility maintenance, so council made a commitment to use capital funds to upgrade stormwater management facilities. So we look at trying to do 2 or 3 stormwater pond cleanouts a year. In the last 2 years, you see we've done a number of ponds there. This year, our budget has gone up. We allocated $750,000 for stormwater facility upgrades. That mostly reflects a report that you'll get on Wednesday with respect to the Station Street stormwater pond outlet. It's one of the ponds that have been identified as needing critical work done to the outlet, as well as the performance of the pond. Again, there was prior approved funds designated to this project, and that I don't want to get ahead of myself too much with this presentation, but part of the $750,000 would go towards funding the completion of that project. So we do have, through our CLICA inspections, we do have an idea of what ponds would be done in addition to the Station Street storm pond work, but those are still being worked on at this time. So,
any questions? If I may, one, when we go in and rehabilitate the stormwater ponds, obviously, are we having much feedback from the citizens? I mean, we're taking away cattails and changing the natural outlet again, and of course, it's all going to return. But are we having positive, negative, no feedback from when we go into these ponds? Any comments on that?
Through Mr. Mayor, so I personally haven't had any comments or feedback, but then again, I'm not the one dealing directly with the project. I'll ask Derek to see. No, I'm seeing him shaking.
I know
his head.
I haven't had any phone calls myself, so okay.
I have had some positive feedback, specifically with respect to the Timber Creek stormwater management pond. I know there was some residents there that were really having issues with the condition of the pond. We rehabilitated that 2 years ago, and I did get actually a compliment back saying thank you very much, and that it had improved the situation there.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. And we had talked about the CLICA stormwater requirements, so we're legislated to do inspections, and this $150,000 line item now incorporates a bunch of different activities that we had as part of operating capital. It includes CCTV inspections, flushing of the storm sewers, catch basin cleaning, and any minor maintenance work that's required on the storm system.
Excellent.
So,
any questions? Not seeing any.
So I will go back. I promised I would go back to the sheet, and if there's any other specific projects there that council would like to ask any questions on.
Councilor Kerr?
Yes, just under the traffic calming, I mean, it's good to hear. I know that I pushed like crazy a little while back to get the crosswalks. Are the pedestrian crossings considered traffic calming? The lights that were put in at St. Anne's and at Wellington Heights, I'm just wondering, is that a traffic calming measure or is that something else?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the pedestrian crossings in Fenwick were not taken from this budget. I think that was a separate consideration by council, but it could definitely be used to fund a crossing like that. Again, we don't have any specific projects designated. We have a $25,000 fund that we can use when we run into certain circumstances where we need to implement some traffic calming measures, whether it be speed cushions or flexible bollards or anything like that. We can use this fund speed display sign. We can use this fund to help fund those projects and initiatives.
Councilor?
Yeah, that's fine. I know that the province announced, mind you, it sounded kind of circular, they announced money for traffic calming measures, but then I sort of saw a hook on that saying where speed cameras had been in place by those municipalities. And I was a little concerned whether, well, that's going to squeeze us out because it was the region that put up the speed cameras, so the region's going to be the one to look at accessing some of these. And we talked about signage and other things of deferral until that point. So that's just stuck in the back of my mind. Is this going to be potentially something that's going to come up if we did go to this advanced signage? Should it have been included in this potentially, and then, hey, we got money and we didn't have to spend it, versus suddenly asking for extra dollars next year?
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? Not seeing any. Please continue.
Okay, so we'll jump down to fleet. So there's 3 projects in the fleet budget this year, 2 zero-turn mowers, and then we have a new loader that's included as part of this this budget.
So if I may, so I went by your yard, and I know that the loader is a big loader, 4-wheel drive, used primarily, if not solely, for putting salt in snow plows. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did speak to the manager of Public Works on this particular item this morning. So it is, in the wintertime, it's used a lot for loading sand and salt into trucks to be deployed. It is also used throughout the summer doing street sweeping. We also use this particular unit to do snow removal from cul-de-sacs when we start to get excess snow in those areas and in the downtown areas. So we will use this piece of equipment to go in and load snow out in those particular areas as well. So I have been informed by Mr. Cook that this piece of equipment is utilized all year round, and the existing piece of equipment predates his employment here.
Okay.
And has seen its better days. So it's, yeah.
I didn't think they had that piece of equipment before Ryan started here. I know he's an icon in himself here. Okay, so it gets used more than what I had imagined. I guess it's a fair piece of change for a loader, but if we're utilizing it in the summer, I can still imagine that we're probably only putting, and I know you don't want to guess, but I'm guessing probably 200 or 300 hours a year on it. It does seem like a lot of bucks, and I'm wondering. I know you usually, when you buy a new piece of equipment, you sell the old piece of equipment. For what we get for that loader, I'm wondering if, and God knows I'm not advocating that we need more and more toys, but I'm wondering that some of this equipment that we give away, if we shouldn't be hanging on to it for another 1 or 2 years because you're not going to get anything anyway when you go to a government auction. But I'll leave that up to you fellows. I know you can only have so many toys lined up against the fence, unfortunately. But now that I hear that you're using it more, it does make more sense. And I know that you need the height and the size of the bucket to get over the top of the plow, so you're not spending an hour loading a truck as opposed to 15 minutes. And I appreciate that. Any other questions on these items? I'm not seeing any.
Okay. Move on to wastewater. So you see a number of projects here, and a lot of them are tied back into wastewater projects that will be part of a larger project, such as Merritt Road. So this is to place new sanitary sewers and extend the sewer from Line Avenue to Rice Road. So that's all part of that project, and will be completed under the same tender. The one here that, and same with College and Emmett, the one that stands on its own is Foss Road. So this is this is the 4th project as part of the large grant that we've got. And This project has also been contemplated now for several years at the town. It involves a new sanitary sewer, an upgrade of the existing one from Church Street to the regional pumping station, and it helps support developments in Fenwick. That pipe has been noted as being at its capacity, so this will be required upgrades to allow future development and growth in Fenwick. And it's got a budget of $4 million. The particularly, again, this project is in the design phase now. It's been for several years, and we are ready to go to tender on this. So this will be another one that if it's approved by council, will be tendered in early January for the start of construction in 2026. And the interesting part about this project is it does include jack and bore type operation underneath the CP rail, very similar to what was completed during the Church Street project. So interesting project, but yeah, that's our wastewater projects. Again, sorry, so I did expand it on it. I won't spend a lot of time. The CLICA requirements for sanitary sewer is very similar to what we discussed with Storm. So again, we've got a budget item where we've included a number of operating capital projects that we used to do separately as part of the CLICA work that we do now. And then we already talked about the Foss Road. So are there any questions with respect to wastewater?
Councilor Kerr.
With respect to Foss Road, does this upgrade also, like that includes taking the current existing conditions and returning to those existing conditions at the road as well? The only reason being is that I know we did a emergency resurfacing and a whole bunch of other things that we spent in the past year. Would this project encompass getting the road surfaces back to that same quality? Yes, that's the word.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, so it does. And we were mindful of that when we did the work on it last year. So we rebuilt the road, so there will be a receiving pit that is placed on the east side of the tracks. So there will be full road removal and reconstruction required in that area. The rest of it, Foss Road that we already completed the resurfacing on, will be a trench restoration, and then it'll be overlain with top asphalt. We just put it to base asphalt last year. So yes, this project does include the full resurfacing of Foss Road from Church Street all the way to Balfour.
Balfour. Okay. Yeah, good. Deputy Mayor Ackert.
Yeah, just for my clarification and perhaps others, but so we're looking at and it could be to you or to Director of Finance. So the 2026 budget is 7.8 million, and then we're seeing where the funding sources are. So other than the money we're using from reserves, are we saying that these projects are basically funded through outside sources rather than tax dollars?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
When you look at the chart there, it says funding sources, grants, provincial, DC, development charges, and reserves. So out of the 7.8 million, you have 2 million coming out of development charge revenue, almost $5 million coming from the HEWS, the $16.9 million grant, and then only $860,000 is coming from reserves.
Which at some point in time gets replenished.
Yes.
Okay.
So when we do the operating budget, you'll see that we're contributing 1.5% of the tax levy increase to increase the reserve allocation. So every year we try to, our goal is usually 2%. This year was 1.5%, just because we have been contributing more at the end of the year because of our surpluses. So we didn't have to go up to 2%. But every year we're trying to maintain a minimum of 1.5% to keep the reserves to reach the target level that the policy is what's stated in the reserve policy.
Thanks. Yes, I had the benefit of hearing that presentation at the Finance and Audit Committee meeting. So basically, we can say we're getting $7.8 million worth of work for about $900,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Wink?
So just an observation, if you look at the DC charges, there's 2 items there. They do not equal $2 million. So we've so we've got to rejig that a little bit. Like 574,000 and 648 doesn't equal 2 million. So.
Thank you for pointing that, Councilor. And, yeah. Unless Finance has a comment, we will. Okay. We will continue on with the presentation, perhaps.
Okay. Water projects, again, in past presentations, I've showed the water system and stressed the importance of our DWQMS and what that means for council. Sorry.
So same thing on this one, DCs for Merritt Road are 373,000, but DC in total is 3 million. So there's, again, the figures are incorrect there.
Okay. And then we will, as we continue, perhaps we can get an explanation later on. Thank you.
Grants are the same situation. So the reserves. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jason.
Okay. So water main will be replaced on College and Emmett. Again, the physical work will probably take place in 27, 28, but we wanted to budget for it ahead of time because of the grant. Again, Merritt Road water main, so it's a new water main and extension of the existing services. Again, that'll most likely be in construction in 27, 28. The other 2 projects here, water main cast iron replacement. So this is a program that we looked as part of our drinking water quality management system. We do a management review and a capital review on all the projects that are affecting the system and look for improvements to the system, specifically with respect to cast iron replacement. So in our capital budget and our forecast, we've grouped 6 projects together to be completed over the next 8 to 10 years. And this, in essence, will remove all of the cast iron water main from the town system. So over the next 10 years, we're looking to get rid of the rest of the cast iron in town. And so what we're looking for here is $250,000 to start the design work, and then the construction will be in future capital years.
Councilor Wink?
Yeah, so that whole chart has to be redone because none of the numbers add up, so.
Yep, thank you. Questions?
Recognizing that Merritt Road and the extension of it, that also Welland's going through significant review relative to Rice Road to Cataract, all in that area with their development. Do our projects blend together at any time?
With respect to the water system, no. We try to keep our systems separate wherever we can. There are circumstances where we do reciprocal work with each other, but no, in essence, we try to keep the system separate.
Thank you. And going to the regional part of my job, I remember that there was a possible conflict of capacity for the wastewater as such. I believe that did, and perhaps you, Mr. CAO, I believe that matter got resolved. It seemed like Welland was pushing ahead with using some of Pelham's capacity. Did that get resolved, or is that, and I realize this isn't part of the budget, and perhaps we should be discussing this at another time. I'll leave that at your reply.
That issue was resolved at that point in time, and we all continue forward. Honestly, the region, Thorold, Pelham, and Welland are all looking at where we meet. as an area for future growth. And all 3 or 4 municipalities, depending how you want to count, have plans for linear infrastructure under the ground, upgraded roads, and considerable future growth in that area. That is where our growth plan, and if you looked at theirs are similar, where there will be a lot of growth in that area in the next decade to come. And beyond that, all I would say is we trust, but we also verify.
Oh. Okay, thank you, Mrs. CAO. To your point, Councillor, yeah, there's a lot of property lines that converge there. Yes. Okay, any other questions? Not seeing any. Please continue.
Okay. The cast iron replacement program, we talked about that. Teresa, do you want to provide some input?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. We just want to say that there was a cut and paste error on the presentation, but in the budget documents, all the information is correct. So we're just going to, so we apologize for that.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. Thank you. Yep.
So I talked about the 6 projects that we grouped together to replace the rest of the cast iron in the town. So the design will be for the first project will be up in Elm, Linden, Burton, and Giles Crescent. So just north of 20 off of Pelham. So that'll be the first area that we look at replacing.
And so, Jason, if you go back, that is the remaining cast iron that we have in the system?
So Mr. Mayor, through you, this is the first project of 6. So,
okay.
Yeah. Any idea how much we have left? About 12,000 kilometers of meter.
No.
12,000 meter. 12 kilometers. Yeah. So sorry.
Yeah.
So
The 0 or 2.
right, just to eliminate a 0 or
Yeah.
2. And that's
Okay.
fine. But yeah, so that we do have about. Anyway, we've broken it down into 6 projects.
Yes.
This is the first one.
Okay.
They're grouped together, and then this looks fairly small with respect to quantity, but 6 projects will eliminate the rest of the cast iron in the town. We look at doing that over the next 10 years.
And is it safe to assume that anytime we do have a break in our water lines, it is a cast iron one? Or not necessarily?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but mostly that is the case. Public Works, we bring annual reports to council for their information with respect to the water system. So all that will be detailed in those reports that come in February.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. The cemetery's capital budget, another one of our units, and it's basically 2 projects on this year's ask. One is to do some work to the entry features, which are the stone pillars and the gates at the cemeteries, and the other is to basically prepare for growth and create another columbarium at the Fawn Hill Cemetery.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Eckert?
Yeah, just quickly, is that the sort of pushing south? And I know from discussions there was talk about maybe even purchasing some property, or is this totally different from that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this doesn't include physical expansion of the area of the cemetery. The columbarium would be to create spaces to place urns into. So we do have a number of those units at Fawn Hill now, and it was basically they're getting to a point where they're nearing capacity, so we're looking to expand it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And do you would that be an addition to that building, or do you think you'd build another building separate? Or is that
Through you,
to
Mr.
be
Mayor. So it's not a building. It is a standalone unit that has individual spaces for urns and that type of thing. Yeah, it's not a building.
No, okay, thank you very much, thanks. Any other questions? Not seeing any?
Okay, so now we'll move into the projects related to recreation, culture, and wellness. Again, So these are the parks projects. So this particular area, we work closely with Rec, so Public Works and Rec both work closely on some of these projects. So I'll invite Ms. Van Ravensway to come up and speak to some of these as well. Sorry.
No, right ahead. Through you, Mr. Mayor. As was stated previously, East Fonthill Parkland Development, which is now named the Ron Levins Memorial Park. There is a report coming to you on Wednesday with regard to the funding, and you will, I'm sure that you've already reviewed it. Saffron Meadows Park development and design is scheduled for 2026. North Pelham Multipurpose Court development, that was pushed out from last year so that the Field of Dreams could be developed in Centennial Park and North Pelham Park. Peace Park Bandshell, upgrading the lighting. I think that Public Works can speak more clearly on that. As we know, it does get pretty dark out there, especially on the August evenings, and anything we can do to help safety-wise would be beneficial. With regard to 0526, General Park furniture, we're constantly replacing or upgrading our furniture in the parks, and that's a constant annual $20,000. Saffron Meadows, we've already spoke about. The LED upgrade, that's not for the tennis courts. The tennis courts is not only, obviously we would be converting to LED at this point, but it's actually, replacing all the old wooden poles. It's long overdue and needed as well. While, little glitch, while we were replacing or working through the upgrade of Centennial 1, we're replacing all of the lights there. We have, it has been noticed that the tennis court lights are connected to Ball Diamond Centennial 1 lights. So if we do not go ahead with the upgrade of the Centennial, or the tennis court lighting, we will have added costs to rectify the situation so that both lights can be used. Pedestrian bridge over Steve Bar Trail, that's at the Harold Black Park through Draper's Creek. Spurline Trail Development, that's on the Thorold side, as we know. Well, Pelham side, connecting to Thorold. Centennial Park Diamond number 3, that is the request from Pelham Minor Ball that you entertained during budget. The dog Molochs waste systems, there is a report that went to council from Public Works. MCC blinds, $25,000 for the MCC blinds. We have constant repairs on the existing blinds, and we need to start to replace the system. And fencing at North Pelham and Centennial Park, that would be fencing around the diamonds that we're upgrading now to preserve the new work.
Questions? Councilor Kerr?
Yeah, just with respect to the Spurline Trail improvement, I know there was an ask by the Rotary Club linking donations and making additional requests and other things, but I don't see any allocation of those dollars within this. This was the $200,000 above and beyond or below that amount. And it was interesting, just as a sidebar, I just saw that the Niagara-on-the-Lake Rotary has made 2 rather large announcements in the last month. They've donated $100,000 to their museum, and they just donated $100,000 to the Red Roof Retreat. So that club came up with $200,000 within the community of Niagara-on-the-Lake. So just as an observation. But I don't see it there, and if I remember, there were comments with kind of caveats with the Rotary donation of how fast it would be received and other things. So I'm just wondering, is that why it's not included in this showing as a quote funding source?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is included there under the grants provincial for 200,000, so that item is red circled for a grant. So if you go across, it says grants P is provincial.
Yes, and I remember that was, well, that was discussed.
Well, I just saw, I see 0926 Spurline Trail Improvement, $200,000, grants of 200,000.
Right.
But does that includes the Rotary, I guess, is the town applying for $200,000? Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Yeah, and we don't know that yet, do we? At the time that Frank made that presentation, I didn't think we knew about that yet, or am I wrong?
At this point in time, there's $25,000 of municipal money dedicated towards this project. That's all that council has approved. In essence, the Rotary presentation, the substance of it was that the Rotary Club is, and clubs plural, but starting with the local one, of course, are fundraising and will be making contributions. Beyond that, we are attempting, the project is still red circled at the moment. When we see how we do in the grant applications we've made, there's every chance we'll be back to say we were partially successful, we were not successful at all. We certainly have to come back if we're unsuccessful or only partially successful. If we're fully successful, then we're able to proceed. But if it's something less than full success, there will be at least one more conversation with council next calendar year. I think it's highly likely in the first half of the year, but that's slightly beyond our control. We know we have good community partners on the project. We know we have good community partners in Thorold. But right now, you only have $25,000 of town money dedicated to this. That's where it stands.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you for the clarification. Every time you hear comments of this is, and there's money for this, but it's not really etched in stone, then I get nervous. Let's just say I've been burned more than once.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Nesnick?
Yes, thank you. So through you, Mr. Mayor, just with regards to 1026, the baseball diamond, 40,000. So I understand it's been red circled, but is it possible to go ahead with that work and unred circle it? So is it red circled because it's pending a grant? So we've applied for one, or that's not the correct red circled part?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, 1025 is being funded from the reserve, so it's not red circled. So if it's being funded by the reserves, that means that we have the town money to pay for it. If it's sitting under the grants column,
Okay.
grants F is federal, grants P is provincial, then you go back to the grant schedule and it tells you which ones have been confirmed and which ones we're still applying for. So that one is not red circled.
Okay, so thank you. So then earlier today, Usama mentioned that there was a Pelham Minor baseball conversion park for 40,000 that has been red circled, or was that was at the very beginning of our date?
Oh, from the open house?
Yes.
Okay, we're just going to quickly move to that slide. Hold on.
It does say that.
Oh, maybe
It
it
is
was a
red
different
circled, Vicki?
diamond.
That Diamond 1?
Diamond 3.
No, but the red circle one, wasn't that the conversion of Diamond 1 to a full-size regulation diamond?
3.
Oh, 3. Okay, thank you.
I would just like to see it done. That's,
No, I don't think
if
it
it's
was
red circled, but yeah. that-
red circled. Yeah, I don't think it is red circled. Okay. No, it's not.
So there was the Rotary red circled and the conversion park was red circled, is what he mentioned. But if it's not red circled, that's great news.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the funding source is listed as reserve. So the slide actually had a typo. It's not red circled. It's the one above it was red circled.
Perfect. Thank you very much then.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hildebrand.
Just a point of interest, the MCC blinds, on Friday afternoon, we have, hopefully, there's some, Mike and I talked this morning, when we visited the Cisco building, they have solar blinds, and that goes to battery power and that lights the building. So those people wanted to come in and see what they could do for us. So they're coming in, just a different observation of how we're going to put those blinds in, potentially.
Potentially. Thank you for that, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. Please continue.
Okay. Yeah, I'll turn this over to Osama.
Thank you.
Actually, if I may, I'm going to call a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back to you. Thank you. Yep. All right, council, I see everyone is back, and we'll hear Osama's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Before we proceed, I would just go back and show you the revised figures for the water and wastewater. And again, I sincerely apologize. Like Teresa mentioned, everything's correct in the budget document. When I was copying and pasting, some of the formulas got messed up, and I didn't realize they weren't cross-adding. So this is the wastewater projects. The 7.03 million is the total ask, and the reserves amount is correct. The grants are correct. It's the DCs that wasn't adding up. So those two add up to about 1.2.
Excellent. Any questions on the addition? Councilor Wink, you spotted it.
No, I'm fine. Errors happen, so.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Please continue.
This was the one for water, so it was about 2.5, and then all the different funding sources now add across.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so I will go back to the next department, which is, planning and drainage. So we only have one project proposed for the planning department and two from the drainage. They're listed in front of you, so if you have any questions, I'll take a moment now.
Any questions, Councilor Kerr?
Yeah, I think considering a substantial portion of who I represent are where municipal drains are located, do we do, and it's just an overview item, do we look at getting away from being in just the repair business and looking at identifying before it becomes a serious problem that maybe some preventative work needs to be done? I see there is a bit about assessment, but I'm just wondering about, rather than just calling it repairs, or is that embedded within repairs?
I'm sorry, to Public Works Director Jason Moore.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the question is, can we be more proactive? And the answer is yes. So one of the, as the drainage superintendent for the town of Pelham, there's a couple of things I'm looking at implementing. One is to complete townwide condition assessment on our drains, because we don't have that currently. We do have, looking at some of the individual drains and looking through the files, there are some drains that have had recent condition inspections and recommendations for maintenance and improvements. So the $125,000 would go for the town's portion of the work that's required to undertake that work. So we do have a recent report as in 2017. We have an engineer's report and a condition inspection on the Ridgeville drain. So that has recommended some repairs and improvements. The $125,000 project would go towards doing some of that work and covering the town's portion of the cost for that. With respect to the other drains, the $75,000, the idea is to do a condition assessment and establish a 10-year capital forecast, kind of like what we do with roads and water and wastewater, and develop a condition assessment so that we know where we need to focus our efforts on doing the maintenance for those drains. And so that $75,000 is a placeholder right now to develop a terms of reference to hire a consultant to come in, do a full inspection and condition assessment on all of our drains, including a drone flyover, and have all that footage. So that's what those two projects are.
Councilor?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think those of us who live in kind of the rural area recognize in many cases municipal drain issues are a result of I'll call it tree cover, willows, et cetera, invading the municipal drains. And if there was a way to develop a plan to say, you know, I always think of hydro easements that go through and they keep everything clean underneath type of thing to protect, because they said we can't afford to go back after the fact and clean up. And if there's a way, because I know that the residents finance the repairs that are on the lots relative to it, but if there was a way of preventative protection, and I appreciate the fact that there's some assessment going on.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? Not seeing any. Please continue.
So I believe that brings us to the end of the detailed projects for by each department. Next, we're going to look at the debt forecast. So the town's existing debt as of the end of last year, December 31st, 2024, is 24.2 million, and that amount is expected to go down by about 2 million to 22.2 million by the end of this year, so as of next month. When we're looking at the sources of funding for our debt, we've got them broken down into two kind of buckets. One is your operating and non-operating. So the operating debt is funded from not primarily, only from your either tax levy and water rates. So any projects, any debt that we need to fund tax or water funded items, that's where the principal and interest payments will be paid from. And the non-operating debt could be funded from either development charges, parkland dedication, and we also had some MCC pledges. We currently don't have any parkland dedication debt. The existing one that you see is from development charges, and we do have some MCC pledges that are near their completion, so that debt is expected to be part of the operating starting in 2026.
Excuse me? So the DC, 1 million DC million in debt. The complete debt picture of our DCs, maybe it's going to come up, I don't know if it is, I apologize. What is that account completely, what is the number that we're in debt on our DC? I thought it was 3 or 4 million. Am I wrong on that? I didn't see it listed here.
I can look up the breakdown in 2 minutes, but I think it's just a little over 10 million.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, thank you.
And speaking of DC debt, even though the principal and interest payments are expected to be 1 million in 2026, our DC debt significantly decreases in 2027, because I think after 2027, the only payments we have are for the MCC. So it goes down from 1 million to about 629,000 for the existing DC debt.
Thank you.
Next, just a quick refresher on the annual repayment limit. So the province limits the amount of money a municipality can borrow for its capital and operating needs. And the limit is tied to the debt servicing costs. So the principal and interest payments that you have to service that debt cannot exceed more than 25% of a municipality's own source revenue. And the definition of own source revenue, again, you cannot include all the revenue. It's primarily, if you want to simplify it, you just look at your tax revenue, your tax levy, plus your water rate revenue, and that's essentially, there are a few other smaller things, but bigger things like DC revenue does not count towards the own source revenue figure. Pelham's 2025 annual repayment limit is about 2.7 million, so that's the principal interest to repay the existing debt, annual cost, which is about 9.21% of our own source revenue, which is down from 10.77% in 2024. Again, in the last few years, we've been able to avoid taking on any new debt, and as the existing debt's paid off, our revenues are increasing, that number is naturally coming down. We provide an update every year as part of the capital budget, so the number for 2026 is projected to be 2.6 million, or 8.42% when factoring in existing and proposed debt. Now, before we move on, even though the provincial limit is 25%, many municipalities have their own internal limits that are much lower than the 25%. And the town also has an internal limit that we've updated in the last, I believe earlier this year or last year, which is currently at 12% of our own source revenues until 2029. And after that, it reduces to 10%. So that's our target internally. Which kind of is a nice segue into the affordability point. Just because we have the ability to go up to 25% doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to without having a significant tax increase or a water rate increase. And that is certainly true for smaller towns such as ourselves. So just as an example, for each $1 million in debt that we take on, it's approximately 0.45% of the tax levy, and it's a greater share if it was, funded by the water rate. So just even though the province allows 25%, this is exactly the reason why many municipalities have their own limits much lower than what the province legally allows.
And Osama, if we wanted to go on above that 12% as a council, and it's our limit, how do we just do it? Or because it's in the, what would we need to do to, and I hope we never have to, but what would we have to do as a council? Obviously, we'd have to revisit the issue, and yeah, what would the steps be?
Well, that's municipal policy, not law.
Yes,
And
okay.
policies created by 7 elected officials. So ultimately, Madam Clerk and I would help you with some wording on some motions, but fundamentally, we'd either amend the base policy, or by council direction, you'd choose to
Yes.
keep the policy as is, but that notwithstanding, deviate from it. There are a couple of procedural ways that we
Yes.
could do that. Happily, you're not facing that this term, and we have no reason to think you're going to face it next term. But of course, the future is full of great unknowns.
Okay, thanks. And I believe this council is very, very happy that we have that 12% in there to make a cognizant of when we are getting close and what have you. We definitely, yeah, it was a wise decision for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And so this chart here shows the debt projection for the next 10 years, so for the duration of the 10-year capital forecast. So as you can see, the purple solid line is our existing debt as a percentage of our own source revenues. The dotted line is the existing plus any proposed debt that we have currently in the 10-year forecast. And the red line is our policy. So as Mr. Cripps stated, we don't anticipate getting into that situation over the next 10 years as this forecast stands today. But again, things can change, and we review this information annually.
Okay.
Just a comparison to other neighboring municipalities. So happy to report that Welland has taken the crown from us for being the highest in the region. This is one area where you don't want to be number one. We're still one of the highest in the region when it comes to annual repayment limit as a percentage. So as you can see, some of the other municipalities, I think the average is around 4 and 5, between 4 and 6, average and median. So we're still a little bit above that, but I think we have a good plan going forward. And this is just a forecast of what debt we have in the forecast over the next 10 years. So 2026, you've got $8 million in Fire Station 1. The good news is the tax portion of that debt, which is $6,128,600, is fully covered from the debt repayment reserve contribution, so it's not impacting the tax levy at all. In 2028, we have some forecasted debt relating to the new public works facility. Again, the details are still unknown, but we have that in the forecast nonetheless. 2029 as well, I think there's another capital project, one of the infrastructure projects, as well as the actual facility for public works. And then 2030, 33 and 35 are just some capital projects that we have that are growth related, so they're part of the DC debt. So overall, you're looking at about just around $26 million in the 10-year forecast of forecasted debt. Next, we can talk about some our reserve funds. So reserve and reserve funds, the contributions to reserves and reserve funds are, at least some of them, come from the operating budget, and we use the money, or we set aside the money in the reserve and reserve funds and use them to fund our capital program. So there's 3 sort of main categories. We've got reserves, discretionary reserve funds, and obligatory reserve funds. So the reserves are established at council's direction. They're not necessarily associated with a specific asset. They're more to mitigate costs and stabilize revenue. So some examples are the roads reserve, drainage reserve, planning reserve, fleet reserve, etc. Then we have discretionary reserve funds, which are similar to reserves, but they require segregation of funds, and they're more, can be tied to a specific type of asset. and some of them are also rate supported. So some of the examples that we have are your building reserve fund, which is for building purposes, and then your water and wastewater reserve funds for water and wastewater needs. And lastly, we have the obligatory reserve funds. So these ones are also segregated and restricted for a specific purpose. They're usually specified, they're restricted by way of a specific legislation or a bylaw. The funds that we receive for these type of reserve funds are actually deferred until the expenses that they're to fund can occur. And some examples are the Development Charges Reserve Fund or the Parkland Dedication Reserve Fund. So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Just before we get going forward, and I,
sorry.
is that cutting me off? Or when we were talking about future debt, it's a couple of slides back, and we were looking at the fire, yeah, right there.
Yep.
So the 6.128 million for that's the fire hall, new fire station.
8 million.
8 million. So 1.8 and 6.1. Okay, 8 million. And what is the impact on our debt for that?
So depending on the timing, I think by 2027, you're looking at the full year annual repayment of that debt. It's, I can give you the number. I think it's, yeah, hang on one second. I don't know if we have the chart in
The 3 lines? That one.
right. Well, it doesn't have the actual dollar, like you're looking for the amount that is the repayment amount, right, for that debt? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking at what the
Like when we
impact.
borrow 8 million, how much does it cost annually to pay that 8 million?
Right.
Okay.
And what percentage, like we're taking our debt percentage down to 8 point something.
Right.
What are we climbing there, and by how much?
Yeah, okay, so that is, that can be shown on the graph. So if we didn't do the 8 million for the fire station, we would be at 7.6%, but we're at 8.4% with that. So that's your annual repayment limit impact. So 0.8% to take on that debt. And in terms of the annual payments, it's, I think it's around 400 to 500,000 a year to service that debt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Please continue.
Okay. So looking at the town's reserve fund history a little bit, the town's tax and rate funded reserves have historically been significantly underfunded. I know this council has done a great job in making that a priority, and we've, the last 6 years or so, we've continuously increased our contribution to the reserves to be able to close in our infrastructure gap and have the money available in the reserves to be able to fund that. So that's good news. I think we still need to do a little bit more. So we, as Teresa mentioned earlier, we do target that we continue to increase those contributions. So just some figures. For 2025, we contributed about $5 million to our tax-supported reserves and $1.39 million to our water-supported reserves. Again, the target is 2% of the tax levy, at least, to the tax-funded reserves, and the contribution targets for water and wastewater reserves come from the long-range financial plan that we currently have in place, and we update that every 5 to 6 years. So you'll notice the reserve forecast summary in your budget documents. So I'll go to the second page, just looking at the total. So this shows, I've only shown the 5 years here, but you have the full 10-year picture in your budget documents. This shows the total cumulative reserve balances for all of town's reserves, not just the capital ones. It includes all the reserves that we control, excluding the obligatory. So it doesn't have the DCs and the parkland. So the balance at the end of last year, 2024, was about 10.8 million. However, that is a bit of a misleading balance because that's just at a point in time. It doesn't take into account any of the commitments that we have. So that's the balance that you would find if you look at our financial statements. The projected balance for 2025 is about 6.1 million. And then you can see it kind of fluctuates up and down, but for the most part, over the next 5 years, we are making small and slight improvements. We're not expected to be in a deficit for any of the reserves except for two. One is water and one is a land acquisition that's been in a reserve for a long period of time. And this forecast is updated every year based on the assumptions as we have, if we increase more contributions by way of surplus or through other means, we get a grant. So we provide this update every year. This graph shows, so now this graph only isolates and shows you the capital funding reserves, and not all the reserves, just only the capital funding ones. And as you can see, the different items on there, the blue bar graph shows the target minimum balance. The orange is when you're at the top of the minimum and when you start to go into the target range. And then the green, the top of the green bar would be your maximum that's recommended for each one of these reserves. And then the dotted line is the projected ending balance for 2025, so in the month or so. Again, looking at the graph, many, if not all of them, are nowhere near the target where we want them to be. So even though we're not in the negative, which is good, and we're replenishing them as we're using them for capital, it just shows that there's still work to be done, and we need to continue to make this a priority in future budgets.
Yeah, that's the wake-up graph. Wow.
And this DC reserve forecast, this is also included in your budget document, just in a different format. Just kind of used a summary version of that. So this was also communicated to council a couple of weeks ago by way of a report. If you'd noticed, the forecast shows significant deficits in future years. However, the report that was given to council a couple of weeks ago outlines that we're going to be focusing on 2025 and 2026. So the bottom line is we've seen a significant decrease in our collections for DC revenues. So we were collecting on average of $4.5 million in the last few years. Now we're down to about $1 million. And there's lots of change in the legislation, timing of when we can collect. So all those things snowballing. So we're being conservative, and we're only forecasting to collect about $1 million a year. So what we need to do is we need to focus on what we've already approved and committed, not spent, and for 2026. The reason for 2026 is because we've got that big grant, the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund grant, and a lot of the projects are utilizing DC funds. So we need to be able to have the funds from DCs so we can complete and utilize that grant to its full capabilities. So you can see in 2025, you've got about 4.7 million. That's that green highlighted number there. We've got about 4.7 million in already committed, already approved capital projects. And then in 2026, we've got 1.87 million, which is going to be financed by debt. So that's the fire station. And the yellow 4.5 million is the rest of the projects that are eligible and utilizing DC funds. Now, if we were to take everything as is, it would show the reserve to be in a deficit of about 1.8 million by the end of the year. Obviously, we don't want that. So I think the report outlined we will be borrowing internally. So part of that amount from the yellow highlighted cell, I think 1.6 million is going to be borrowed from internally from Water and Wastewater Reserve Fund, and the Water Wastewater Reserve Fund will be made whole from future DC revenues with interest. So just wanted to show that. And then anything beyond 2027, even though the forecast shows that it's a significant deficit, we review this information every year. So any future spending, even if it is eligible from DCs, we're going to take a look at what the collections are, what the existing commitments are, and then we will continue to update this every year as part of the budget.
If we didn't have, if we didn't have the reserves in the water and wastewater, then what would we do? What would we do? Where would the money come from to keep funding the projects that are going to take place with the 16.9?
Yeah, so that's a great question. If we don't have any money in the reserve funds, then it would just have to be from the tax levy.
Okay, wow. Wow.
Or the water wastewater, depending. If it relates to the water wastewater, then it would come through the increase in the water rates.
Okay, okay,
If it's not that, then it's the tax levy.
okay, okay, thank you.
So earlier we were talking about the 1 million in DC payments. So my mouse is moving. So you can see this is about the million that we have for the DC related debt. So the good news is that number is decreasing down to about 630,000, and that's only for the MCC portion remainder. But in theory, if you had nothing in your reserves and you still have the bill for $1 million and you have no other way to pay it, that would fall on the tax levy. And this is just last few slides, the reserve fund transfer summary. It just, again, shows you the total tax-funded capital reserve fund. So like I said, $5 million in 2025. We're increasing that contribution to about 1.5% of the levy, or 310,000, to 5,328,000. And then the water and wastewater contributions will be updated in early January when we present the water and wastewater budget. So that's the 310,000. And then it's just got some debt payments as well. So just to kind of show you for illustrative purposes how much your capital is costing you in terms of a levy percentage. And I do have a note, even though it's calculating as part of the Fire Station 1 debt in 2027, that one is not going to impact the tax levy as it's fully funded from the debt repayment reserve that we have. I believe that is the end of the capital presentation.
Excellent, thank you. Questions? And by the way, it was very detailed, and we thank you again for the work that the staff has made in this presentation. It was excellent. Thank you. I don't see any questions. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the format of today's meeting is a little bit different than years past. We are currently in the council amendment period for the budget. So if council would like to make any changes to the capital as proposed, now would be the time to do so, and that would be done through a formal motion. If possible, if council is putting those amendments forward, if you could reference either the project number or project name, that would be appreciated. To Mr. Mayor.
So if there's no amendments, then what we saw is what will happen.
For capital, that is correct. Then we will wrap up at the end of the meeting. We will be moving on to the operating. However, if you want to tackle those capital amendments, now would be
I
the
think
time.
that's a great idea. Yes. So is there any counselor that wants to make an amendment to the capital budget that we've just gone through? No. Councilor Hildebrand.
I'm not convinced I'm going to make an amendment, but I'd make at least.
Oops. Go ahead, sir.
I'd at least like to have a discussion with regards to the IT budget. I believe that the IT budget has the greatest potential for a transformative change for Pelham and its operations now. I took a look at what's happening in other municipalities and the progress that they've made in IT. And like the city of Markham has a program called Millie, St. Catharines has Catherine, Kingsville has Kingsley, city of Barrie has Pilot, and Ottawa has 311 Virtual. They all have operational where they've taken advantage of all the things that IT can do. And I know that the budget has capital items, Microsoft Copilot and Voice AI, which are great general projects. But what I'm wondering is whether we should be adding a couple very specific programs that have AI functions already generated that would make life a lot easier for staff.
And no doubt you've talked to Mike about this.
I've talked to Mike about that, and it's, I guess what I'm looking at is, if you're looking at programs like Clerk's Minutes or Easy Minutes or Broadside or some of those things that would help out staff functions, It's not a big expense. I've looked at the cost of clerk's minutes, for instance, a yearly budget, because it's one of those programs you just pay yearly for, a subscription service. It's like around $2,000 a year. I know in the LDCs, which is the electricity market, they're using specific programs to do inspections of transformers, and they monitor the Ontario Energy Board decisions on a daily report for staff. I don't have the answer. All I'm saying is, there could be a slight increase in the IT budget, other than just, they've added in, like I said, Microsoft Copilot, and they've got Voice AI, but they're general projects. They're general productivity improvements for everyone.
Yes, yes. I will turn to this. Oh, I'm sorry, we have,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So with regards to, for an item of $2,000, we have the innovation fund there. We can fund it through there. So we don't have to add an additional line item. Like, we can absorb it in the current capital budget.
That would be great.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CO, any additions?
Actually, Ms. Quinlan Murphy and I are thinking alike. If it's the will of council to make more resources available for potential software enhancements that are ultimately designed for efficiency, we'd be happy to accept those dollars and increase that line item. As I think council's aware, Madam Clerk and our Manager of Information Technology are in fact working, you're going to get a report, I don't know, the end of Q1 or thereabouts, on some ways that in fact AI can help us. So we're still doing that review internally, and we are trying very hard, or I am trying very hard, to make sure we are not the sharp edge of the sword on this one. Happily, there are a couple of municipalities in Ontario farther along. If one of the lessons of cannabis is don't be the first. At any rate, we are doing work on this, so we don't know what our recommendations or our findings are going to be in that regard. I know what Councillor Hildebrand's, broadly speaking, what he's saying makes sense. We think that too, and it's an ongoing project for us. We're not there yet cognitively, but we would absolutely accept a larger budget for us to be able to tap in. Like, if we can come back with recommendations and there's already money there, that'd be great. We're heading into year 4 of a 4-year cycle, and essentially there will be elections next year, and usually we buy new technology quite appropriately for 7 humans who will be constitute the board of this corporation. So next year's a relatively high capital spend with respect to, higher than the other 3 years, right? You see it. So we'd be happy to take further resources. That's never a no from our perspective. We just don't know where we're going with those recommendations yet. We're really trying to see what current best practices are in a couple of leading municipalities, and then hope to see what's going to work well for us. But I don't think we'd say no to more resources. I can't imagine. That being said, I can tell you it's higher next year anyway, because we're year 4 of a 4-year cycle. Admittedly, that's hardware. We just don't know what we're going to conclude. So if you want to increase for essentially as a placeholder so that we can be guaranteed, guaranteed is the wrong word, you get to make the final decisions, but so that there's an easier way for us to go forward, that'd be great. And if not, I also understand it's always a hard budget, and we put in the number we thought was appropriate, but very happy to take more, because obviously AI has some power to help us in productivity, self-evidently.
And then through you, Mr. Mayor, we can also bring back, a report in early part of next year after that analysis is done between the clerk's department and IT, and if we need additional funds, we do have an IT reserve, but there is some money in there. I was just referring to Councillor Hildebrand's, request for $2,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Any amount.
Yeah.
Yes.
Councillor?
Thank you very much. I'm very satisfied with that. I knew that staff were working on things. I just want to make sure we're progressively moving as quick as we can on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm working, I rent some land off a fellow who spends 3 hours a day studying AI. He's been in IT his whole life. He has a job in Sweden, blah, 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 blah. And he actually tells me that AI scares them because it's advancing so fast. So you're right, there is a cutting edge, but I also think, yeah, we probably don't want to be on the cutting edge, but at the same time, we do have to, it's a whole, the possibilities are indeed endless. There's no doubt about that. So I'm glad to see that we're opening the book and we'll turn the pages as finances allow and as time allow. So excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I may start the 2026 budget, or I'm looking
Yep.
at the clerk for a minute.
Unless, Mr. Mayor, do you want to conclude that there's no additional amendments
Oh,
to
okay,
the capital
sorry.
budget?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, that's where we were. Any additional amendments to the capital budget? Not seeing any. We're good. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
So right now, we're going to be talking about the 2026 operating budget. This is the agenda that we're going to follow for the operating budget. The first part is the community profile. This just gives you an update of, what does Pelham look like, and average household assessment is 380,000. The population is almost a little bit over 19,000. The average household income is about 153,000, and then we have the area, the land area, and the population growth since 2016 to 2021 has been 6.3%. The 2026 staffing summary, this is in comparison to 2025. Okay.
You are a winner.
With that, I know, that'd be awesome.
IT in here now.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just solve the reserve problem. So what we have here are just the request for a new complement is there's one in the clerk's department, and that's for a new committee coordinator, full-time, and then there's a part-time position in the communications department. So, and that's for a new social media and design specialist. 3 days a week. So that is the only request that this budget has for the staffing.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yes, thank you. At the Finance and Audit, it was brought up about the additional person in the clerk's department, and it's the committee person. But it's more than just that. Can we expand on that just a little bit?
Who do I turn to? Oh, I'm sorry, to the clerk.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's correct. So we would be taking the current position, splitting it into two, so legislative coordinator and then committee coordinator. The committee coordinator would also take care of the election responsibilities, so we would not be hiring an additional election coordinator on top of that.
Thank you. I think that was important to add into the conversation, that we're just not, that's not their complete function, and especially with the election coming up.
Correct.
Thank
But
you.
that being said, it would just be one out of the 4 years that they would take on those election duties.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Councilor Nesnick.
Yeah, so just on that, the 1.6, I'm not sure we have fully justified the purpose of that additional staffing. I'm just wondering if you would consider maybe having a 3/4 staff assigned to it. I just find that, like, as I said, certainly we need somebody for the election, that's fair, but after that, I'm not sure we really can justify a committee coordinator in the clerk's department. Though the committee, I'm on 3 committees, and at every of those meetings, we have already 3 staff members present. Usually we have the person in charge, then we have the manager, and then we have a secretary taking minutes. So to add another role, a person to that role, I'm not sure is justified. Yes, we've had some issues, but I think the current clerk's department has dealt with those in a timely fashion, and it hasn't entitled or required a full person to be connected to that. So I'm just thinking, you know, in these days when many towns are actually having a hiring freeze, for us to add a 1.6 is a bit of an additional expense, because those expenses go on, then they of course get you know, pension, and they get other costs associated with those full-time roles. So I'm just wondering what other folks maybe at the table think about the 1.6. I know it's been in the long-term wish, but I'm just not convinced that it would be totally warranted, as well as the 0.6 for the people services and marketing, if that's been justified to my satisfaction at this time, when I think we have quite a few on staff that either could look at reallocating some of the roles to fill some of those spaces. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Before I turn to other members of council, perhaps the CAO wants to fill in the job description a little more, perhaps?
There are a couple ways to look at this. Understanding that this request, it's a new title, and it sounds like it's a new position, but that's misleading. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, we created a town solicitor position. That was new. It's ended up saving a lot of money and bringing a lot of value, but that was new to the town. And when we went with a full-time grant coordinator, that was new and ultimately had a business. Those were new services, though. This is better thought of as being a response to growth. And it's easy to look at the job title and think, well, it's just someone to go to committee meetings. And that's really not the case at all. I've had the privilege of being your chief administrative officer for 6 years, 4 months, and a couple of weeks. Not that I'm counting.
Yeah.
And when I got here, the clerk's department was 3 people. It's still 3 people, 6 years, 4 months, and a couple of weeks later. But our population has grown considerably, and more importantly, the work done by the clerks, and this is growth related. We try to explain how we want to structure the department, but understand, and you get quarterly reporting on what the clerk's department does. And then last year we put in the full business case on this position. What's dramatically different, and I hope Madam Clerk will speak to this when I'm done. I hope to be able to pass the microphone to her if we may, because it's her lived experience as opposed to I'm one step removed. But the FOI requests, the Freedom of Information requests, have gone up exponentially. That isn't just a Pelham thing. That is true in local government. It's certainly true throughout Niagara, but I also, from my going to various conferences and things, believe this is just societal across Ontario. That is a major increase in work. That is very high-level work, and it is my expectation that either the clerk or the deputy clerk does that task in conjunction with our legal department, because understanding it's essentially a legal analysis that you have to do on every FOI request. So, but the quarterly reports show, like, weddings at an all-time high. That's like, I can't use AI for that. We can't, like, that takes a human being to marry someone. Stamping the documents, people come in there's always someone at the counter. Like, if I walk out of my office, I don't know what it is, 70% of the time, I remember the clerks, like, someone is out there stamping. It doesn't matter what the request is, that's in the quarterly data. The work level has gone up dramatically as the community has grown. We know this, we get quarterly statistics on that. Really, what you're looking at is a staff request of 1.6 on a population of 124, just over 124 full-time staff. So if it was 100 staff, 1.6 is we'd be asking to grow by 1.6%. As you know, we're a service corporation. Staffing is our real cost, but our levy growth is 2.5. So if you were to approve these as asked, we're growing it's less than 1.6%. Whatever 1.6 divided by 124 is, just over 1%. And yet, we're growing, the demand on us is growing by 2.5%. So in fact, you're shrinking the size of government here. The clerk's department has not grown. We know that every fourth year we have to hire someone for half a year. And the challenge with hiring at 0.75 comes down to quality and caliber of the applicant we're going to have. If we get 0.75, essentially there's no growth at all because that person is going to be busy with election this coming year. It doesn't say that in committee coordinator, but that's the promise you keep hearing, that we won't hire an additional person to help run the election. It'll be absorbed into 4 humans. This is very carefully considered. I know it says, and yes, we would send this person to committee meetings, but that is sort of the tip of the iceberg piece. The majority of the iceberg, the below water piece, is administrative burden that's increased every year. I've had the good fortune of being here. And last year, we thought we were mistaken, but we thought we had a compelling case, and appreciate and respected council's vote at the time to defer a year. Here we are back again, and all the quarterly data reporting show is that demand's gone up yet again. So we think there's a very strong case. I would just suggest to council that the title of the job is less important. I mean, it matters, and we hope it's reflective of part of the duties, and that's how we would advertise the job. But really, this is about backfill, and it's about backfill so as to free up the clerk and the deputy clerk for a number of difficult tasks that require considerable thought and time. And unfortunately, the demand is up, and we have no choice. FOI process is statutory, and there's statutory timelines, and we don't really have a lot of choice in how we proceed with that. I can tell you it's very difficult. And so that's really why this is structured the way it is. We're trying to bring in a person at the lower end of the pay scale to handle different, more administrative routine tasks, so as to free up the existing leadership to focus more on strategic and leadership items. That's really how I would think about it. That being said, I don't live the daily experience, and I think you might benefit from hearing from Madam Clerk if you were prepared to indulge that.
Madam Clerk, of course, we'd like to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would say that I would like to add to the justification, which might not be clear, is the role of Committee of Adjustment. Right now, the Deputy Clerk does take sole responsibility of the Committee of Adjustment. It is highly administrative. At some points, it does take up upwards of 50% of the role. So as David alluded to, primarily this new role would allow senior staff to refocus their priorities away from those administrative tasks, more onto policy compliance, and then take that Committee of Adjustment portion, shift it to this new committee coordinator. So it is, in addition to having them attend these meetings, it's all the background work for Committee of Adjustment. Additionally, we've seen municipalities such as Welland reduce their commissioning hours, and they're doing this to reduce the demand on their staff. So that is great for us. We are getting the business from Welland. However, it is increasing our strain, stretching our capacity. Civil marriage ceremonies are through the roof right now. We are, in some cases, turning them down just because we cannot accommodate them, and that is not a level of service that we want to provide. So we'd like to continue to explore those civil marriage ceremonies and increase those numbers, and absolutely sending people to committee meetings. Our clerks, right now we're taking care of a lot of that in the background, which is eating up our time. So in addition to the staff that attend those meetings, we are doing a lot of that administrative work in the background. So by putting us in the room, it'll reduce those hours that we're spending on those duties as well.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll go back to council. Actually, Council Nesnick, well, anyone on this side have any comments? Councilor Kerr.
Do you want to answer, have Councilor Niznik continue rather than jumping across?
I thought
that would be my.
Yeah,
I would like to hear
yeah.
from Councilor Niznik and then.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, thank you. So, your justification helps somewhat and is warranted. I'm just wondering, though, if there are other staff members somewhere else in the departments here in Town Hall that could be reallocated, especially maybe for the 0.6, and maybe, I understand the quality, that, so maybe go to the 0.1, I'll change my mind, and you've convinced me that maybe a 1.0 is warranted. I'm just not sure about the additional 0.6 as well, then still. Those are just still my thoughts. I know it is the mayor's budget, and he gets the big final say, so it'll rest on his shoulders, but just curious about others' thoughts.
Okay, thank you. And that will be a council decision. Councilor Kerr.
Yes, I guess the challenge is that unfortunately sometimes the nomenclature or the terminology used with a broad sweeping name of committee coordinator doesn't really flesh out to everyone, and we have to hear it. It's almost like having worked with enough things where here's your job, here's this, and then there's always ODA, other duties as assigned. And it's trying to figure out if they're, I mean, I have more hearing the background of what the person is to undertake, gives me more feeling that, yes, it fits into the time demands and freeing up and everything else to make everything more efficient in the long run, ultimately. And I think that's the challenge. Again, that was sort of the thing with me of 0.60 part-time, and I just bring this up for people, services, and marketing. You sort of made a comment of 0.75, who are you going to get to assist the clerk? So then you say, well, with 0.6, what are you going to get for people services and marketing in terms of quality level and things like that? So I think that's where part of this comes into the number of bodies we add theoretically in perpetuity to the system. So we're all mindful of there's salaries, but then there's benefits, and every year there's cost of living attachments, and there's negotiated raises and everything else. So the percentages have a tendency to roll up on us, and suddenly you go, well, hold it, we went from this, and we were really pretty, and then, well, how big did we get? And it's never by a bunch at once. It's always by little tiny pieces that get added over time. So you look at efficiencies. So I understand the clerk's position. I'm assuming what I'm hearing is that this position would have the skill set and the legal authority to undertake a number of things that the clerk is doing, that it's not tied into their legal qualifications to undertake A, B, C, D, and E, so that the person hired would fit. Following the CAO's comment of this would be a junior position per se in terms of how they would enter into the program. I can follow that, but like I said, I'm not sure of I haven't heard the rationale for the people services and marketing 0.6 person. I've heard the rationale behind the assistance for the clerk. So if I could get more enlightenment on that side, would help me understand a little more detail about what that 0.6 person is for.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, I will turn to our CAO, Mr. Cribbs.
6 years, 4 months, and roughly 2 weeks ago. Well, now about 6. But in all seriousness, in 2019, we had a communications department of 1. And that really amazed me. It's a hardworking individual who works at another municipality now, but that person had to sort of do everything. And the thing is, Pelham, like every other municipality, is we go 7 days a week. The MCC is open 16, 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. Fire is a 24/7 service, so I can go on. And of course, we respond to storms when they happen, not when it's convenient. The communications function in a municipal corporation, I can just say that over the course of my career, it's gone from plenty of municipalities still view it as some sort of nice to have or optional, and I don't, and everyone that conceives of it that way is simply wrong. They're simply outdated thinking or ignorant. The comms, we have been flourishing with a department of 2.0. However, that flourishing, that 2.0 also takes in 100 essentially 100% of our grant writing function. We do things as teams. The rest of the staff contribute a bit, but it is led by the two people in that department. And that has been such a force multiplier. I don't have data immediately at my fingertips, but understand that functions entirely within that line. So when we're busy on grants, which is sort of all of the time, there's almost no, it doesn't matter which quarter of the year you're in, you're either prepping for that Hughes application that got the 16.9 million. I'd love to know, we probably should have counted just so I could say, but it was hundreds of hours of staff time, and that's not hyperbole, across multiple departments, and it just completely sucks the oxygen out of the capacity to do other things. What we have done here is, although Pelham Today exists, and if they're listening, is a wonderful publication, but the reality is, without a daily newspaper in the same format that there used to be, the comms department has to pick up huge slack for us to be effective in getting our message out. And so what do? They run radio takeovers. What do? We now direct mail to our residents because we have no other way to physically get something in people's hands. All of those things, right? We do takeovers on Facebook. We do takeovers on the other social media platforms. Where our problem is, it's 7 days a week, and we should really only ask for about 40 hours from two staff members. Well, even if they were only doing comms and somehow we ignored the tremendous success out of the grant applications, that's not coverage for when things happen. Like two people, if they were 80 hours a week in different hours, still wouldn't get us there. So this, again, is best thought of as growth related. We're not promising to offer a new service other than we are asking that department to now also directly assist my office with government relations. So there is yet another demand on service from 2.0 human beings. 2.6 gets us to so 3 days a week is what we're talking about. That's what 0.6 represents. This is work. When you're looking to tap into the creative industries, it's a place where you can hire part-time and get quality because people want flexibility to work on their other creative projects or the other thing they have passion for in life, or it's a better way to juggle family work-life balance. At any rate, we've had good success in the past here and then over the arc of my career elsewhere in hiring permanent part-time on the creative side, and we will find a very good human being to join that department. If you dig into it, the manager of government relations and communications is sitting in the body. She can speak to her daily life better than I can, but I can tell you that the way we handle things now are, I take photos at events to help out because we can't clone a man. If I'm going, then I'll do the photos. She's going, she does the photos. Like we try to, and we ask other senior staff to periodically take pictures, etc. And so that's how you function at a corporation of our size, and that's fair. We all want to chip in, but if it was just comms, we'd have the demand. It isn't just comms, it's grant writing. Now we've asked for some assistance and some work in government relations, which is new, and the maturation of this corporation into placing considerable effort into our relationships with our external partners, because we believe that's going to enormously benefit residents, positive outcomes on our grants, positive outcomes in working with community groups to build things like trails, whatever we're talking about. I see this as hugely force multiplying and being enormously worth its weight in gold, in the same way that I would never cut back on the grant, and if this can augment our grant writing capacity, those have self-evidently paid off over the years, many, many, many times over the salary every single year. So I view this as really strategic, highly value added, but also we find it hard to put out communications product 7 days a week on a staff of 2.0 just by doing the basic mathematics. That's basically why I thought in a very tight year that it was still the one worth advocating for, or one those two positions are the ones worth advocating for. If you have any further questions, the manager's in the back, and I'm sure she'd be content to speak. I'm sure that's why she's standing in the back. But that is why I think there's very good value, very high value. It's just like when we first applied for a grant writer. There's an exact way to quantify it. Just know it to be true, and that has been borne out, and this will augment our capacity to do those other functions, augment it greatly. Thank you.
Thank you. Leah, any comments that you would like to make, address the council?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. There are two elements that I think are unique to Pelham that we need to continue to look at, especially with continuing the capacity building in the comms piece for recognition of grants. We've been extremely successful with those, and every grant that we actually receive then creates additional work product that is required as a part of that grant application. Each one of those has unique elements for signage, communication, event pieces of recognition. So we are perpetually creating more opportunities for us to engage with our community. The second piece is that with an aging population here in Pelham, we know we have a senior demographic, but our seniors are becoming more and more tech savvy. I would imagine each one of you has a mobile device in front of you and likely will use it as your first point of contact when looking for information, which means all of our assets, if we don't have a AODA compliant digital element, we're missing an opportunity to engage with our residents. And those are our seniors. The digital framework for everyone who is not a senior is first point of contact is that phone. And I can attest that they don't stop at 4 p.m. and they don't work usually within a Monday to Friday schedule. So we do see that across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ledford. Now we'll go, I'm sorry, Councilor Kerr, you good? Okay. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you. I don't have any questions for Leah. Somebody else might, but I don't. So circling back to the one position in the clerk's office. Couple of things. I know one committee that I'm on, we meet in the evening, later in the day. So I remember when we were looking at changing council meeting time, part of the rationing was it eliminated overtime to some staff. Is there an overtime output for staff to attend these committee meetings? And would this new position eliminate that overtime? And then secondly, I don't know the exact figure, and I'm not asking for it, but the clerk's office generates revenue with the functions that it performs. And is there the potential or the thought that this position would actually increase that revenue?
To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have had discussions regarding the overtime component. The intention is no. The intention is for that person to flex the day. If they know they have to stay later in the evening, that they would just start later in the day to complete those 7 hours or 8 hours of the day. As for revenue, yes, it would be our intention to take more civil ceremonies, advertise far more than we already do for civil ceremonies. We have been quite silent just because we can't accommodate all of the requests that we're getting, as well as commissioning that has gone through the roof, and I can see it just continuing to skyrocket. So absolutely, I would think that that is possible.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I also like to point out to council, as I'm sure you all know, that our representative at the provincial level, Sam Osterhoff, is now a minister. So I know from personal experience, I used to probably have contact with him, pretty easy to reach, and probably we talked at least once every 3 months at minimum, probably more than that. But now that he is a minister, he is traveling all the time through all kinds of, all parts of the province. So I don't relate or talk to him as often because I know it's hard to get a hold of him. So if we can get someone, and that someone would be Leah, whose sole purpose or a great part of her purpose is to contact Sam and let him know we're Pelham, let him know what we're doing, what the latest grants are, or whatever that her goal, her goal as a governmental relations person is. I think just because of that, the fact that Sam is a minister, that does indeed get us an ear one step closer to the premier. I mean, Doug Ford loves Sam, I can tell you that much right now. And Sam does a great job in bringing other ministers to the Niagara region. I haven't seen, in the last year, I've never seen this many ministers that knew that there was actually part of the province on this side of the Burlington Skyway. And so Sam is definitely into the region. But like I say, as a minister, he is a lot more busier than he was 2 years ago. So if we could have someone who's, among other things, is a function to reach out to him and just keep him aware. I believe he meets with the CAO, or they reach out to him at Lincoln. They reach out to him on a monthly basis and say, listen, this is what we're doing. Probably not to Sam directly, but to his very capable assistant. So it's, and they have had also very good luck with their grants and keeping that line of communication open. So that is a big bonus, the fact that our MPP is the minister, and when you talk to Sam, you're pretty close to talking to the premier. So, and the more we do that, it's got to help the town. That's for sure. Anybody? Any other comments, please? Councilor Wink.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate all the comments made by councilors. You know, we are responsible for looking at the bottom line, and we often hear from our constituents that, oh, you know, there they go adding more staff and whatever. Or there's too many staff in town hall, and in all honesty, people really don't know what is being done in town hall and the amount of work product that has to be put out to keep this town running. I know for a fact that staff don't take this lightly of increasing the FTE. They know that they're going to be put up against the wall when it comes to council and have to sell themselves for it. I know that Public Works, we had a report about a year and a half ago saying that we need more Public Works staff. And I'm looking at the director right now, he's saying, well, what about me? You know, we're overworked too, but you know, we're not being asked for what's recommended by outside consultants and whatever. You know, they're looking, I believe staff are looking at, okay, what can we hopefully get by with, you know, and to the CAO's point, like, we're growing faster than what our staff is. Our staff are bringing in more dollars. So look at Leah's department and look at the grants that we're getting. If we didn't have a dedicated staff person writing grants and whatever, we wouldn't be able to expand Merritt Street. We wouldn't be able to do Station Street. We wouldn't be able to do Foss Road and whatever. Like, yeah, we take things for granted that, okay, you know, staff did good work and we got a grant. Well, there's a ton of work that goes into that grant before and after. You know, it's not just, okay, here's a bunch of money and have at it.
No.
You know, you look at stuff like the clerk's department, and yeah, we don't make a ton of money on weddings, but that's increasing. But I know the amount of affidavits, like if you look at that in itself, like a lot of places are divesting themselves of affidavits. I know in my former employer, we used to do a ton. I don't believe they do any anymore. The town of Welland doesn't do anymore. So just a quick question through to Sarah, like how much do we get paid for each affidavit that's notarized?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, Council did increase that fee substantially in 2025. So we are collecting $20 for residents and $30 for non-residents. So a lot of those Welland customers are coming here. We are getting $30.
And roughly how many of those would we do in the course of a year? Ballpark.
Oh, I will defer to the deputy clerk on that for current numbers. I believe we're well over 100. And increasing for sure compared to other years.
So we're increasing our revenue stream, but we're putting more work on our staff, and there's only so much capacity. You know, so I know the clerk position didn't surprise me whatsoever. We looked at it hard last year and we cut it, knowing full well that we would have to look at it very, very hard this year. And I have no problem with that position. The piece in marketing department, the world's changing. You know, so we're looking at all the additional stuff, but what about who's monitoring Facebook and Instagram and pushing out messages into social media and whatever? That can't be done the way it was done 10 years ago. Times are changing, and we need to adjust to it. And for us to adjust to changing times, yeah, we need a few more staff to help us out. And a 1.6 or 1.6 ask is not unreasonable, I think. So I understand everyone's concern about not wanting to increase staffing, but I think in this case, they've justified the reason for it, and they've shown restraint. You know, because they could ask for a lot more, but they would have known that we would have trashed that idea. But you know, I think the ask is reasonable. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Wink. Any further comments? Back to Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Wink, for all your eloquent speech and justification for staff additions. That still doesn't make it easy for me to approve additional staff. I always have a hard problem because in the regular committee meetings, I'm not talking about the committee adjustment, but just the regular committee meetings that we have, I guess I still don't totally understand why we need a clerk there taking the minutes for those kind of things. But be that as it may, I understand that clerk's department is really becoming a lot of a service department because of our aging community and the extra demand placed upon them because of places like Service Ontario, which is the government, having
affidavits being signed for transfer of vehicles, for instance, which are just clerk-type functions, but they eat up an enormous amount of time. Plus, the other thing I know is because we got seniors and their social agenda is to come and see people and spend time with them. I know my neighbor just complained she needed a bank draft. It took her 45 minutes at the local bank because of all the seniors in line talking to the clerk. So I suspect the clerk's department is facing the same thing. So maybe conversely, we can increase the cost of our service that these people are getting to recover the cost of adding extra staff. I guess that's the end of my comments. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councilor Hildebrand. Any further? Councilor Barnarski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the clerk mentioned that the time would be flexed, have the ability to flex. Is that true for both positions? I mean, obviously, both of those positions would have the capacity to flex without incurring overtime or additional costs that way. So would both of these positions here, the 0.6, would that be expected that that time would be very flexible? Is that fair to say? Yes, okay. Thank you very much.
And I see the Mr. CAO.
Just to get an answer on the record, that is correct. In fact, the department does function that way as we speak in the 2.0. We still, when you add in sickness and vacation, there are plenty of times of the year that's 1.0, and then we have the 7-day-a-week problem and 17-hour-a-day problem. But that is how it already functions, and the new person would be obligated to fall within those operating parameters.
Okay. Is that good, Councillor? Okay, thank you. Councillor Nesnick.
Yes, so just thank you. I think it's been a warranted, fulsome conversation. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was comfortable with it, because it is about a $200,000 expense once you count in benefits and salaries and that sort of thing. So it's not, in my opinion, a starting lower level, the 1.0. You know, at $83,000 salary, that's a pretty nice salary, starting salary is what my figure has here. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure that this is where we wanted to go and make sure that it's the cost is well known before we move forward with any final decision, or as I said, when the big mayor gets to put his gavel down. Thank you.
And of course, this is it was a great decision. A lot of good points made. I will go to the clerk. What are the next steps on this?
Well, if council would like to have any further discussion on this item or propose an amendment, they may do so. Otherwise, the treasurer can continue with her presentation.
Oh, okay. So, so if we don't make an amendment, the position stays. Is that?
That's correct, and you can still do so after the presentation has concluded. We still have that council discussion period, so
Okay.
it doesn't have to happen this moment.
Okay, excellent. Knowing that and not seeing anyone wanting to put forward amendment, Ms. Quinlan, you have the floor.
Okay, some of the budget highlights that we have here is that this is the first year of the mayor's budget under the Strong Mayor's Powers. The preliminary tax levy increase for 2026. It was originally reported to the audit committee in July as 5.06% increase. Staff have worked very hard to bring that number down, and right now we're at 3.69%. The 2026 draft base budget increase is below the inflation. We just talked about the 1.6 new FTEs as proposed in the budget. The staffing COLA is budgeted at 3%. This is the third year of the CUPE agreement, and the non-unionized staff have the same increase as the unionized staff. There's been a significant reduction in the town's benefit costs, and I'll get to that when I go through the itemized line items. The new debt for the Fire Station 1 is proposed for 2026, and then there's some existing debt that's being paid off in 2026. As Usama mentioned earlier, it's not impacting the tax levy on the town's portion of that because the debt recovery reserve is paying for the new fire station debt. Increase in contribution to the capital reserves over 2025, it's 1.5%. And there's a hospital contribution budgeted at $90,000 a year for 15 years, and the cost to the average household for that is $11 per household, and it's 0.44% of a tax levy. We are going to show that the hospital levy separate on the tax bill, as what council directed staff. And right now, the assessment growth is budgeted at 2.50. That number is not finalized yet, but it will be at least 2.5. In the next couple weeks, we'll have the final number, and we will update the operating budget once we get the final number. Economic impact on the 2026 budget. So some of the challenges that we face is that there's low residential growth leading to unpredictable revenues. So that definitely has had an impact on the development charges revenue, as was mentioned in the capital budget. Normally we would be getting about $4 million a year, and now we're at about $1 million. And the challenge is that for this year and next year, we need about $1.2 million just to cover the debt that we have. So if we are below that in the in-year revenues, then we start decreasing the reserve. If the reserve goes into a negative balance for the DCs, it hits the tax levy. One way or another, we have to pay the debt. So that's the challenge. And the changes to the DC with when we're going to be collecting the DC revenue is going to be a big challenge for us. Substantial completion versus at the building permit stage. So we don't even know what the impact of that is, and that's why we've been very conservative in this budget. The inflation continues to be a challenge, and even with year-over-year CPI at 2.4%. And the challenge that we have for the town is that even though that's what the inflation is, but what we've experienced is that a lot of the products that we purchase is much higher than that. So for example, in the fire department, there's some of the items there that, are more than double than what they were a few years ago. So just because the inflation is 2.4, it doesn't mean that that's across the board for us. The utilities alone are at 5%. So that's the challenge that we face. Increased staffing costs due to the CUPE collective agreement. There's salary grid movements and the cost of living wage employer. The minimum wage increased this year by 2.3%. So in the last few years, the minimum wage has been increasing over 2 to 3%. And as soon as you increase the minimum wage, you have to look at the bottom level of your staffing and adjust that. Increased cost of benefits for CPP, EI, OMERS. There's been an offset in that, as I mentioned, the reduction in health benefits. And there's climate change increasing costs, storms, clean up with the storms. This is going to have a bigger impact year to year. We don't budget for that. When it happens, we just have to absorb it. And then we look to our reserves to help cover that. Right now, this year, just the winter control budget for 2025, we're about $250,000 over budget right now, which will be covered by the roads reserve. And we still have 6 weeks to the end of the year for this year. So, and we had a snowfall, from what I heard, last week. So, winter started early, and that's something we can't control. So those are the challenges. We've got some slides here that refers to the BMA study, which is done in conjunction with the region in about 150 municipalities across the province. So as we mentioned earlier, Pelham's average household income is $152,000. It's the highest in the region, and the Niagara region average is about $117,000. This impacts one of our grants, the Ontario, what's the name of that grant? Ontario Municipal Provincial Grant. We actually only receive about $30,000 a year because they look at the average household income, and because our income is high, we receive a small amount. If you compare ourselves to Lincoln, I think they receive over $1 million for the same grant. So this is where the province is looking at to say you've got the household income that can actually offset some of those grants. So there's this property tax and income. So Pelham was in the mid category for the 2024 property tax as a percentage of income. And then for the total municipal burden, that's the average tax and water costs, and Pelham was in the high category based on the dollar and mid category based on the percentage of household income. So the average for the Niagara region is about 6,129, and Pelham was over 7,000. The residential comparison, Pelham's 2024 property taxes for a two-story home were in the high category, slightly below the Niagara average, and for a detached bungalow, we were in the mid category. So the property taxes, the assessment value is determined by impact. We are still at the 2016 values that was used in 25-26. And speaking to impact, they haven't heard anything. We have a quarterly meeting with our impact people, and they haven't heard anything from the province. So they don't expect anything to happen in 2026 because they are assuming that they would have received notice by now if that was going to happen. The tax rate, the town sets its own rate based on budgeted revenue that's needed, and then the region and the province for education, they set their own rate. Pelham is primarily residential, so what that means is that the residential is at 89%, and so our residents pick up the larger part of the tax bill. If you compare ourselves to the city of Niagara Falls, they have more commercial and industrial, so the amount that the average residential household pays is much lower because the commercial and industrial area picks up a bit more. Mayor, you have a question?
No, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So going back to impact, so at the committee, we heard that we're 2 cycles behind and going into a 3rd cycle.
Yeah.
Okay. So when impact finally decides what they're going to do, they could make up 1 cycle, they could make up 2 cycles, or bring us, we don't know. And then what ends up happening is that actually does it, or am I correct, that it creates more revenue for us?
No.
No, it does not.
No.
It's just more of a tax burden on the person.
Right. So whatever our budget is, whatever we need for the budget, we adjust our mill rates to equal that. So what's going to change, though? The impact, I think what the worry is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. CAO, is that the market rate for a lot of the lower level homes have gone up substantially. So they're the ones that actually could be impacted. So for example, if someone has a house, like 2016, so just think of 2016, you could have someone that has an average home that was probably $200,000. Now it's at $500,000. So that house there could have a higher impact as far as what their assessment is, and then you multiply that by the rate. So whereas a household that was probably at a higher level will have a smaller impact as compared to someone that's at a lower rate. I don't know if you want to add to that, if I said it correctly.
Ms. Quinlan Murphy certainly understands, but for clarity, if we take $1 million every year from residential housing, that's divvied up by every single member of the class. Everyone who owns a residential home in Pelham, collectively, if they paid $1 million. What's different is if you've purchased a home, if you live in a home that was constructed since 2016, you are closer to the correct assessed value in your home. You are essentially overpaying and subsidizing a home that's 100 years old or 50 years old or 30 years old. Heck, you're subsidizing something from 2015 while we're on the topic. So the older the home you live in, the more you'd reasonably expect it to go up when impact does eventually do its work. So it's just going to change who pays and how much each person pays within the class. We won't take a penny more. We'll still take, in my hypothetical example, $1 million. But instead of it being 10, 10, 10, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, it'll be 7 from everyone. And the obvious fear of the province is what happens to people who are paying 5 and now have to pay 7. But everyone who's paying 10 should desperately want this to happen. It actually makes new houses really unaffordable because we tax them the correct amount it's a modern valuation, right? You've built in 24, you've built in 25. If you were built in 1910, you haven't changed since 2016. You're definitely coming in under, definitely. So that's the, it isn't technically a municipal issue. We don't create the tax rates. We can only use provincial data. It is up to Ontario to, and I understand that it's as likely that they're going to change the system fundamentally as it is that they're going to update, because at this point it's now so hopelessly antiquated. You know, they're still stuck back in carburetors. That's where it's at.
Thank you. Okay, thank you,
So
Deputy
if you
Mayor.
look at the chart here, on the how the taxes here, so 10% of your tax bill goes to the province for education, 40% of your tax bill goes to the town of Pelham, and 50% goes to the Niagara region to cover the services that they provide. Okay, operating revenues, in your budget binders, you've got the 25 and the 26 comparator, and we've got the notes on the side. I'm going to go to, just looking at the time we have, to the detailed schedule that actually shows the breakdown of what the increase is. This is the chart that shows that the majority of our revenue, almost 82%, comes from taxation revenue. And then the expenses, same thing in your binder, you actually have the detail. You have the detail at a higher level, and you also have the detail per department in your budget binder. And then this shows that the biggest expenses that we have are salaries and wages are about 34%, benefits are 9%, and then the transfer to reserves are about 22% of our budget. The Meridian Community Center, this is the consolidated budget. If you look at this, the actual revenue increase is about almost 7.9%. And then with regards to the expenses before debt, the increase is 6.79, and then the overall increase at the bottom is about 5.98%, an $83,000 increase to the community center. The library, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yep.
Excuse me, thank you,
Councillor
through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question back to the community center. So during the budget conversation, that actually is not only the Meridian Community Center, or it also includes like parks and recreation. Is that so? We had a discussion about qualifying that and calling it the recreation department rather than just the Meridian Community Center, or is this a separate page?
For 2026, it's separate.
It's separate. Okay, all right.
Parks are pulled. Yeah.
Okay, so again, we just kind of continue to look at the Meridian Community Center and how those costs keep going up, up, up. I know it's well used and it's well loved and it costs money to run all those programs, but at some point we really need to start to say, whoa, we got to be more diligent in at least keeping the costs similar. But every year it goes up, 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 up. And I know when I first came into council, I had a wonderful conversation about that same concern, and nothing has changed. So just as we go forward, maybe for the next council, we've really got to figure out a way to tighten up our belt in that area, in my opinion.
And
Thank you.
I think part of the issue is that also the activities have increased quite a bit, what's happening at the MCC. And so that's part of it. It is extremely well used, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, the library, we have the CEO here, Julie, if there are any questions. This is the library budget from last year, this year. It's only a 2.5% increase, about $32,000. I don't know if there's anything specific that anyone has on the library, but if you do, we have Julie here to answer any questions. Thank you for coming.
Any council member have any specific questions for the library CEO?
Okay, so I'm going to go through this schedule in detail. So this summarizes the budget increases, and we've tried to provide as much detail as possible to make it easy for everyone to understand where the increases are coming from. So on this schedule, there are increases and then decreases. So the first one is the full-time staff. This is the in-year changes, step increases, and COLA at 3%. So that's the amount there, $254,000. Part-time and seasonal staff, in-year changes, grid movements, COLA at 3%. That's about $123,000. Volunteer firefighter point increase, $85,000. And in talking to the fire chief, there's a new class of recruits for 2026, and that's why we have the increase. The fire department, if you look at the BMA study, I think Pelham actually is the lowest fire department, definitely in the region, and I think it might even be in the province, but for sure in the region, you're one of the lowest ones. Salary and benefits for new positions, we talked about that, and that's about $166,000. And then there's benefit increases, OMERS, CPP, EI, EHT, $147,000. WSIB, extended care, and other changes. This is actually a decrease of almost $297,000. And the reason why we have a decrease in our benefits, this is our extended health, is that last year we budgeted at 12%, and the actual for 2025 came in at 7%, so there's a bit of a savings there. But we also went out for quote, and we did really well in going out for quotation, and we will be changing provider as of January the 1st, and in total we have almost a $300,000 savings, so that's been very positive. Yeah. Decrease in transfer from reserves to operating. So we were using the HR capacity reserve to offset some of the salary increases. We're not using that right now. And also we were using the building reserve to offset some of the salaries in other departments. Right now we've allocated those salaries directly into the building budget and under the salary lines. Increase transfers to capital reserves. So the $400,000 is a 2% increase. And then the line underneath that is a reduction of a 0.5%, which is $90,000. So the net difference is 1.5% is going to the capital reserves. The reason why we felt comfortable in reducing the 2% allocation is that in the last couple of years, our surpluses have gone to the reserves, so we actually have surpassed the 2% every year. So we're still staying in line with the reserve policy. And the Fire Station 1, the new debt principal and interest is $206,000. And so that's an increase to the tax levy. This is offset by the transfer from the debt repayment reserve of $206,000, and the net impact is zero to the tax levy. There's decrease in the tax-supported debt payments. So this is some of the debentures have matured, so we're saving $180,000, but then at the same time, we're putting that contribution towards the debt repayment reserve as per the policy, so that's a net of zero. So the principal and interest payments have gone down by $180,000, but we took that money and we moved it to the debt repayment reserve so that it keeps the budget whole. Hydro and gas and water is at 5% increase in material and supplies, which was about $59,000. Material and supplies about $58,000. Software license and fees to maintain the existing software, $108,000. This is in the last few years, we've had quite a few different softwares and the increases, so we're just making sure that the IT budget is where it should be. There's other contract services increase of $5,000. Election expense is $110,000. This has been offset by the election reserve of $110,000, so the net impact to the tax levy is zero, because every year we put money, about $40,000 to the election reserve, always being ready for the next election. Completion of the community transportation grant, so this is a reduction of that grant of about $40,000. The grant finished on March 31st, 2025. I always like to talk about, this is the last year making when I talk about this grant, but this has been such a phenomenal grant. In the last 7 years, the town has received over $750,000 for the transit. And so this is the last bit of it, and it's just something that I think the town should be very proud of, that we were the only municipality that received that money in the Niagara region. Increase in recreation revenue of $158,000, increase in planning revenue of $25,000, decrease in interest revenue about $50,000 just because of the interest rates going down, and we're going to be spending quite a bit of the cash that we have on the capital projects. I mean, some of the reasons why we do have that interest revenue is that the timing of the capital projects, but there's quite a few projects that are wrapping up this year, and we're actually have to spend the money on that. Library increase of $32,000. Increase to the airport contribution, it's only $9,000, but it's still 25% over 2025, so they have like a higher allocation. There's been the cancellation of the swim program because of the pool renovations, so there's a savings of $67,000, but we also put $67,000 into the parks reserve so that next year when we have swimming lessons, it doesn't impact the budget. So we want to make sure that the money is sitting somewhere so that it doesn't impact us. And then there's other miscellaneous. So in total, it's a 6.19% increase. We have a 2.5% growth that reduces the impact to the existing taxpayer. And so the proposed net tax levy increase is 3.69%. If the growth number goes higher, then that number gets lower. And then we have the hospital special contribution at 0.44%. So I don't know if there are any questions relating to the increases.
So if I may start, not really about questions, comments, I guess. So obviously the 2.5 of growth, if we do hit that, I think that's pretty phenomenal considering whenever I go to other events at the region, everybody, especially Niagara home builders, it's most of it has indeed fallen and more or less has gotten flat. So if as a town, if these figures are right, and I'm sure you have data to back that up, that is a pretty good growth figure for the town, that's for sure. The airport, I had at least one councillor write in or send me an email about it. 25%. It's kind of high. I don't know if Kevin, if you want to, Councillor Kerr wants to mention that. I guess the only way, and I remember this was about 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I guess, another councillor and myself went to various airports, and they just said, well, it's the way the airports are set up. Commission, we don't have a say on their spending. We were there at the end of the day to pay their bills. But they did stipulate or did say that the one time you are in control is when the airport does building, make sure impact is there to assess. Have the new hangars at the airport being assessed, and are we getting taxes?
Yeah, so MPACT has been notified, and they are working on that to get the assessment, and they'll go back retro to when.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they will. So they can go back 2 years retro. So yes, they are aware of the new hangars.
Thank you. And Kevin, I don't mean, and Councillor Kerr, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Do you, any comments?
Sure. Yes, I can comment on this through you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. One is it was very interesting. I had asked questions about the hangars, and suddenly I got information from one of the other members of the commission. Oh, here's what it is, and pass this along to the town. Suddenly MPAC. Oh, well, let's look at this because of the way it's set up. The increase in there, and just to get across everybody, the airport itself had a reserve of about $250,000. It was entirely spent this past year due to severe some situations that had developed. Hangar 1, which is the largest hangar there, when the tenant left, suddenly it was found inside that there was incredible structural problems, and the repairs of that was about $180,000 alone. The premise behind this ask for an increase was to try and replenish the reserves, not to get in, because they have $0. So if there was a massive expense now, they would instantly have to come to each municipality and ask for a bundle of money. So this is, as the town builds up a reserve, the airport commission is trying to replenish. Basically, we've done what happened in the discussion here. All the reserves were depleted, well, we've got to build them back up. So that was the rationale. So this increase was asked of all of the municipalities, all 4. So each one was asked for a 25% increase above and beyond what they had contributed the previous year. I went after this. They wanted to come and to be very open to everyone that the ask was going to be double that. And I said, I can't sell that. I can't justify it when I look at it. The increase is not dramatic. And there's a lot more detail behind it. But that was the rationale, was that they had a significant reserve and due to a calamity. And I will almost equate it to suddenly having to resurface Foss Road. When the town came to us and said, hey, we got a shortfall in our budget, we need this much more money to pay for this stuff. That's because there was that much shortfall. And this is an attempt to recover that. So if you want to talk to me individually afterwards, I can give you a little more detail, but that's the reasoning behind it. And I said, look, this is a static situation to try and get them into a little bit more of a recovery mode. There are also some other challenges because there were legal proceedings and some other things that went on that also took a significant amount of money to go through. We went through a particular event that went to arbitration. We won the arbitration, and at the end of it, the person said, well, I'm not going to pay it, I'm leaving, and just took off. So, these are a couple of things that add up to suddenly what looks like this massive ask, but it was, in the long run, it's the better thing for the airport overall. In the short term, it was a very expensive year for the airport.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Kerr. Any other questions on OGAG? Deputy Mayor Eckert.
I don't want to have her waste her entire morning here, so I have a question for Julie. And she's going, no, it's okay, it's okay. Now, one thing I just noticed on the library increase was it looked like the largest increase that I saw was for telephone and internet, from 28 to 50. I should have asked it at the time.
Actually, it was a decrease.
It's a decrease.
From 50 to 28 is a decrease.
Oh, sorry, misread it. Okay. Great answer, Julie. Thank you. You should come into more things and give us a decrease. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions on the presentation? Go ahead, Councillor Kerr.
I just have one. It was to do with the election expenses. I'm at the 110 and then the 110 transfer. I'm assuming none of that's for the body that we had hired previously, because now, in theory, we're adding a person that's going to do that work. That's just materials, advertising, the nuts and bolts, or what did that encompass, I guess, is my question.
Sarah?
Sorry?
The election expense of 2026, that does not include staffing. 110,000.
It does, yeah. So a portion of that is going to be transferred to the new person, to the 4th position. Should we be successful in receiving that, that will be utilized.
So that was the case, correct me if I'm wrong, we were either going to have to hire that person, or now we've done it with this new hire.
Correct. So if you were unsuccessful in gaining that 4th position, we would be looking to get an election coordinator, which is included in the budget there.
Yeah, I guess it's because it shows up a transfer from election reserve of 110,000. If we've added a body, then there wouldn't be you're telling me there's not the full 110,000 that would be transferred or required. The expense should drop.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So if you approve the full-time complement, then that 110,000 would be lower, and then you just keep the money in the reserve.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make sure of that.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Not seeing any?
Okay, and then the last slide here is the just the summary here, as I showed earlier, that we're at 3.69% for the budget increase. Hospitals 0.44. And if you look at the breakdown here, it shows that of the 3.69, 1.49 is going for capital, for increase the reserves to the transfer to the reserves, and 2.2 is for operating. So that, if you look at the inflationary number, we're actually below that. And then 0.44 is for the hospital ask. So that's in summary what the tax levy increase is.
Okay, any questions on any of those numbers? Not seeing any. Thank you.
So, and then what does that mean? It means that for the average household, it's about $100 a year increases in the average taxes. And then this chart shows you, what does $100 buy me? So we're saying $4 went towards, cost of fuel and insurance, $46 went to staffing, $11 went to the hospital, $4 to the library and the airport, $22 increased the reserves and capital expenditures, and $13 for materials, services, roads, parks. So if you look at, what did the additional $100 get each resident? This is how we broke it out. So the proposed tax levy, as we said, the town's portion is $2,426 based on the assessed value of $380,000. And there's a 3.69 tax levy increase plus 0.44 of the hospital contribution, which equals the $100 increase. And that's it.
All right.
So any questions?
One last time, any questions to Ms. Quinlan Murphy? And I don't see any.
Awesome, thank you.
To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps we can take a break before we head into the council input for this portion of the budget?
Yes, okay.
Perfect.
So I believe lunch is waiting, so we're going to take a 30-minute lunch break.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming back in session for another 5%. That's it? I would think so. Yes. I couldn't believe it. Okay.
Oh, well, I think they'd ordered it.
All right, council, everyone's back, and I will turn things over to the clerk.
Get all that through. So did you see the minutes of December 11th?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Before we proceed, and as a procedural exercise, I do require a motion to extend the meeting, that the rules of procedure contained in the bylaw be suspended, and that the curfew time of 1 p.m. be waived until the remainder of the business listed on the agenda be concluded. And Mr. Mayor, I do understand from the Finance Department that we are approaching the end of discussion, so.
Okay, excellent. So
I'd be looking for a mover, seconder, and a majority vote.
we're not going to put a time limit on it, it's just to the end of the meeting as such. Okay, I need a...
That's council's wishes, yes.
Yeah, a mover, Councilor Kerr, Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconds. All those in favor? I see none opposed, motion carries. Turn to the clerk.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we are now on council input for the operating budget. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the treasurer has done her presentation. What are the comments, questions, amendments from council members? And I'll just give everybody a minute to settle in. And while we have a minute, I see a couple of councilors going. I just want to say that, as always, this is how a budget should be done. I have no idea how the strong mayors would have proceeded, and the CAO has tried to explain it, and I said, okay, whatever. I have no interest. I have no interest in it. This is how grassroots is supposed to work. Input from council members, everybody, and then we rule by consensus. Or we, not rule, I'm sorry, that's not the one. We, what's the word? We govern by consensus, and that's exactly how this is supposed to work. So again, thank you, council, for contributing your thoughts and your ideas to this budget. And of course, a continued thank you to the SLT members, all of you that obviously spent a lot of time on this. And I can only imagine the nip and tuck as it was to get it down to where it is. So again, thanks everyone for this. And I guess by law, we call it the mayor's budget, but it is indeed council's budget. And I think we all did a very good job. So thank you. I turn to the clerk. Oh, we're waiting for, I guess the question went out. Is there any council member that wants to do amendments to what we've heard or any other comments or questions? Councilor Kerr.
No amendments, no changes, no, other than to say thank you. I know the amount of time that people have spent on this particular budget. And what I find particularly heartening is to be able to see things that were deferred brought back in at the appropriate times. I sort of watched some of the stuff like the park changes that were supposed to go, and then I admire the staff and others being light on their feet, as I call it, when suddenly something comes up and we've got to be able to come up with a deferral and it occurs. But we have a plan to bring it back in at that point. So that's always been, I think, a strong suit, and I give kudos to the department. And that's really all. It was just a thank you that I agree with you. I have no idea if I had to produce something like this that I would ever get to that degree of detail with.
Yes.
And I appreciate the rational explanations of a number of the questions.
Yes.
That's an important part for us. Sometimes when we don't understand it, we get good, what I call, for me, simple language, because I need it simple to be able to understand where things are going. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for those words, Councilor Kerr. Any other comments, amendments? Again, I'm looking at you, Councilor Nesnick. Any words?
Well, sure. Thank you very much. Yes, I certainly did consider bringing a motion forth to reduce the 1.6 staffing ask down to 1.0. However, after listening to several of listening to the conversation, I think it would be all for naught. So we'll just proceed with the 1.6, and I know you'll make good use of that to that new staffing should it pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Nesnick. Councilor Bernarski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment, again, thanking everyone for this budget. And I would just maybe say perhaps with the 0.6 staff member that we'll be using is to truly put the WIFM factor out there on our social media platforms for, and we've talked about seniors and the aging demographic that we have, but also the young families and really outlining what this budget means for them and all the town produces and provides for them, just so they have, that true understanding of, okay, this is where my money's going, this is what I'm getting. We've had the ability to read through these notes. I don't think everyone would do that and understand truly what they're getting from the town of Pelham. But I think it's important for us, like I said, maybe that 0.6 or before that, to really blast it out and let people consume it and digest it and know exactly what they're getting. That would be my comment. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? If not, I'll turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If that concludes our discussions, I have some concluding motions for council's consideration. And I have a motion moved by Councilor Wink, seconded by Councilor Kerr. Be it resolved that council receive the presentations from the treasurer, the deputy treasurer, and the director of public works for information, and that council receive the 10-year capital forecast for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. One last chance. Any comments or questions? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. And I have a motion moved by Councilor Niznik, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be resolved that that council confirm that no further amendments to the budget will be proposed, and that the council amendment period, as established under the budget timeline, is hereby concluded. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, and that brings us to the confirming bylaw. I have a motion moved by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that the following be read a first, second, third time and passed. 54-2025 to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Pelham at its special meeting held on the 17th day of November 2025. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Just call the question. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, and that brings you to adjournment. I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that this special meeting of council be adjourned. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? See none opposed. This council meeting is adjourned.